so funny. Wonder everyone thinks you're so short.
Yo, no, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Everybody in Matador was like, I expected him to be so
everyone
much
says that. I don't know if it's a compliment or it's just a general statement of I thought you'd be shorter.
You're a grower, not a shower.
Yeah, exactly.
Are we recording? Are we live? All right, hello everybody. We're here in person with Joseph Kony, Idi Amin, and Jean-Claude Duvalier. This is the Dictators podcast.
Wait, which one am I? Wait,
you're Jean-Claude Duvalier.
Does that make you Paul Potts or Joseph Stalin or which dictator do you want?
You know, I'll settle for Che Guevara.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
So hipster, man. Yeah. Well, let me guess, Fidel Castro.
Well, Jean-Claude Duvalier, thank you for your failed regime.
Hilarious.
We appreciate it.
Pray for Haiti, man. Come on.
And Jeremy's Idi Amin, obviously. Mike's Joseph Kony. And we are the Leg Kick Podcast here, coming at you dead. Somewhere in the blue basement. Rest in peace, Danaher Death Squad.
Deep, dark, deep basement.
The blue basement's where Danaher Death Squad trained, Jeremy.
No, they're not in the blue basement. They're in my space, actually.
Oh.
And so are the rest of the Leg Kick podcast. The Leg Kick audience. Everyone's in my space. I'm a little
I think
uncomfortable.
that reference went above Jeremy's head. So,
I just want to say, last pod we had our last pod we had way less MMA references, and I felt okay with it. You know?
Wait, there were less MMA references on an MMA podcast. You're okay with
Hey, we did 45 minutes on Cyril Gane versus Derek Lewis. I don't know if anybody can ever question whether we're an MMA podcast.
My boy Cyril Gane, I was up in North Bay for that episode. I just want to say, Cyril, if you're out there, no, you're not out there, but I love you.
Bon vive.
Vive la France.
Vive la France.
All right. Well, we are filming this podcast in our new location that Mike is so beautifully set up for us. This is my last podcast here in Toronto with the boys. And then I'll be off in an undisclosed location, recording there, hopefully.
Man, I was going to save that to the end. Thanks
Yeah,
for
man. Come to a jiu-jitsu gym near you.
But yeah, Stefano will be leaving to somewhere.
NYC, baby.
NYC.
The Big Apple?
The Big Apple.
Big Apple, Chicago. You know that, right?
No, it's not.
Wait, what?
What? Did we just catch Stefano on crowd?
Oh, we caught him slipping!
You know what they call New York? The Windy City, right?
We got this man.
Fuck, you're right.
We got this man slipping.
You know people outside of Toronto call Toronto the Big Smoke?
Yeah, I heard
Well, that's what people from Keswick call it. I grew up in Aurora, so I know that. They were like, we're going up to the Big Smoke.
Wait, Aurora isn't that far away from Toronto.
I know.
When I was growing up, Aurora was far from Toronto.
Dude, you know what the crazy thing about it is once you cross, like, I would say Woodbridge, everyone thinks Toronto is this, like, foreign land that's 80
Mike,
years
I
away.
live in Newmarket. That's not true.
No,
like,
you
still think it's
because
like 45 minutes
cultured,
away.
Hold on, because you're cultured and you've been to like every continent in the world, you know, including Singapore, by the way.
Yes, I've been to Singapore. Great country. You couldn't chew gum there. Anyway.
Direct quote from Mike, you've been to every continent in the world,
including Singapore. That's how cultured
Oh,
Mike
yeah,
is.
no, God damn it. You get what I'm trying to say. But
Hilarious.
anyway, my point being that, yeah, Keswick people are weird, bro.
Yeah.
Yes, they call it the Wick for a reason.
Yeah.
Anyways, you guys want to get into some news? News and views of the week?
Let's snooze it up.
All right, transition. Let's get into the news and views of the week.
Ain't no snoozing when we losing.
All right. I didn't know you could die of cringe, but I am nearing that point.
I never losing.
So, big announcement. We're beginning with a little bit of Bellator news here. Yoel Romero set to make his Bellator debut, coming back off his injury
Applauso.
against Phil Davis.
Hey, applauso.
Who the hell is
Hey, racist. Anyways, you don't know who hell Phil Davis is?
You just fought in the...
Jeremy, you want to find another podcast with another sport? You want to?
How dare you try and kick my brother off the podcast?
You don't know who Phil Davis is? You know, light heavyweight, former UFC fighter, current
in the
Bellator fighter.
Bellator Grand Prix final, right?
Yeah,
No,
yeah, he just lost to Vadim Nemkov.
It was quarter.
Was it quarter?
Yeah,
Oh,
lost to
man.
Vadim Nemkov. Historically, he's had problems when he doesn't feel he can confidently strike with his opponents. Hell of a wrestler. Submitted a few people with a one-armed Kimura. But this is the kind of matchup that, for me, will give Phil Davis a lot of trepidation.
Yeah, stylistically, not the best matchup for our homie Phil.
Yeah, like that. The holes in his game haven't necessarily been ironed out on the feed. Like against Vadim Nemkov, he seemed very, very hesitant to really commit to anything, if memory serves. When he's letting his kicks fly, he's a lot better, but that's when he's confident that things aren't coming back at him the other way. But yeah, we will see if he can apply some smothering pressure to Yoel Romero.
Is this just a match that they're just throwing together for entertainment, or are they actually trying to build one or the other up
No,
here?
just a match.
Just a match?
I know. What do you mean, just a match? Yoel Romero could be potentially the biggest star within Bellator.
Yeah, but the
a
Grand
household
Prix is
name.
still going on, according to you guys. So, like,
Grand
it's
Prix's
not as
going-
if, like, he's going to get a title shot off this.
Well, he could get the next title shot post Grand Prix, right? Yoel Romero was supposed to be in the Grand Prix, and then he dropped out due to injury, and Anthony Johnson fought.
What was the injury again? Because they weren't very clear with the commission. They just said he didn't pass the physical.
Well, Mike, I don't know. You're gonna have to ask Mr. Internet,
So
Internet James.
I'm just
So Bellator would like for Yoel Romero
I'm actually
to
not sure.
to be like a star.
Yeah, you see, Bellator, no, you know what? I'm not going to say they don't want to build their own stars, but it's
That's-
a very easy way to get, you know,
it's easier to get the
relevancy.
UFC run.
Yeah, just like get some UFC stars who've fallen out. They've done it with Cyborg. I'm struggling to think who else. The Pettis brothers as well.
Isn't the Pettis brothers with
One Pettis.
One Pettis. Sergio is
Yeah.
with Bellator, and
It's effective to pick up the scraps of the UFC. Thus far, it seems like, and you know, Bellator historically, I will say, has been decent enough at building their own stars. Chandler, Will Brooks. You've got
I think their deal,
Pitbull.
I think their
Outside
deal
the
with
UFC?
Showtime, I think their deal
Pitbull.
with Showtime is starting to give them a little bit more of a name.
The problem is, remember when the UFC went head-to-head against Bellator, and Bellator put on a pretty decent card, and the UFC put on...
was it
Uriah-
the Pitbull versus what's it called?
Yeah, Pitbull versus McKee.
and they had Uriah Hall versus Sean
Strickland, and the Strickland card did far bigger numbers, despite being a low-effort card from the UFC.
Wow.
So,
I think it was 900,000 to 100,000 or something
yeah,
like that.
the UFC has the market cornered at this point, but I do wish for the success of Bellator. I really do.
I mean, Bellator's starting to grow on me, especially with what they've been doing recently.
They're my third favorite MMA promotion. I always say it.
Yeah.
Who's your second PFL?
BFL.
I will say,
Yeah, one
though,
person.
in Bellator's defense. Sorry?
I was gonna say, if you have one name in there that I know, I'll watch it, even though, and then you'll introduce me to.
There's a
Phil.
bunch of names, man. There's a bunch of names. And they actually put on some decent fights, like, from time to time.
Gegard Mousasi
just
fought on the
this
weekend
weekend,
against
yeah.
John Salter. I haven't had the chance to watch it, and I'm guessing you guys haven't yet either.
No, I just feel like...
Herein lies the problem.
Here's exactly the
Even
point,
though it's
right?
free on YouTube for Canadians.
Yeah.
See, this is the crazy thing.
I'll watch some of those YouTube. If it shows up on my timeline, I'll watch some of those YouTube Bellator cards. Those are.
But see, this is the crazy thing is free card with the champion, the middleweight champion of the world, who also had a pretty good run in the UFC, Gegard Mousasi, and we're an MMA podcast, and none of us watched it.
Yeah, because...
And John Salter, hell of an opponent that trains a lot of fighters who are on the UFC out of his gym, Salty Dog Jiu-Jitsu. But, I mean, I have built an excuse in that I'm moving to another
Yeah, fair
country.
enough.
But, it's true, though. Therein lies the problem. We do this as a hobby. And here we are. Not having watched it.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean, I was
hey,
interested.
maybe
Yeah, maybe we'll watch it.
Maybe we'll have more
Sponsors.
time for research and stuff. We could.
Get an intern.
Hey, don't you dare give me a look. Don't
Hilarious.
you dare. No, I'm kidding. But no, it's true. Like I think I was interested in that Rupiov Stoltz matchup just because Magomedov was the last guy to beat Petr Yan. So I wanted to see if he could pull off a W against Magomedov. But other than that, I was looking at this card. Like Gegard Mousasi is like, I'm not gonna lie, great fighter.
Not the most
But
entertaining fighter.
it's
to
like
watch.
watching paint dry. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
I find him interesting, but he does sometimes fight. Sometimes he'll produce a very interesting finish. At times, though, he'll. I guess. I don't want to say fight down to the level of his opponent, but fight a smart and not exactly action first kind of fight. So I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Now, moving on to more Bellator news.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if you guys covered this, but you're going to want to.
We did.
You covered Tim Johnson versus Fedor?
I mean, we mentioned it. I wouldn't say we covered it.
Right.
But what are your thoughts on it?
What are my thoughts on it?
Fedor should still be fighting at the ripe age of, 42, 44?
Is the Pope a child molesting Nazi?
What?
We can have that on here.
Yeah, what?
We can have that.
We are a Christian pod.
Sorry, I meant is the Pope Catholic?
Oh,
That's what I meant to
okay,
say.
yeah.
Yeah, of course Fedor shouldn't be fighting at this ripe old age. Being knocked out by Matt Mitrione fairly recently, who was just cut from Bellator. I didn't even know such a combination of words could be used in the English lexicon, cut from Bellator. But there you go.
Oh man, yo, in Matt Mitrione's defense, it seemed like there was a couple politic reasons as to why he was cut, as well as poor performance. So it's not all, hey, Bellator cut Matt Mitrione because he sucks. With that being said, yeah, Fedor shouldn't be fighting. And I mean, here's the thing: Fedor's an attraction, and if you want to put him up against scrub number 5 like they used to do,
But is he an attraction anymore? Pride collapsed in 2007.
That's a long time ago.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of MMA fans who had their eyes on Pride are,
Dead. I'm joking, no.
I was gonna say eating applesauce, steady diet of
brain
applesauce
dead? No.
and cholesterol medication, but
All right,
yeah,
so pretty close. It was,
Pride never die.
It's
in
a
my
relic
heart,
of the
but
past for sure.
It's
like,
a
I feel
relic.
like
There's a generation of MMA fans coming up now that do not know what Pride is.
not even a single thing, yeah. And
Like-
for a lot of, and we talk about the dominance of the UFC pretty much every podcast, but for a lot of fans nowadays, like the UFC is all they know. They don't know anything about Strikeforce, nothing about WEC.
And for us
nothing about Pride.
and for us purists, we'd love to sit down and educate the casuals and have a conversation with them about, some of these great wars that went on in Pride and these leagues that at the time were so talent rich, and when their fighters came over to the UFC, dominated in a lot of cases. But
it doesn't even matter. Like, who are, like...
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't matter, but you know what I mean? Like, a lot of those fighters aren't even in the UFC anymore.
Yeah, it's MMA history at this point. It's
like
MMA history.
literally, last week we're celebrating Jose Aldo, who pretty much is like one of the last
vestiges
dudes.
of
Of those like competitor leagues of the UFC, the last successful one. To illustrate an example, my girlfriend is a pretty hardcore MMA fan, a newer one, right?
Yeah.
But a hardcore fan. Like, we watch every card together without fail. She's on r/MMA.
Are you listening, Victoria? Sorry. I'm joking. Don't watch it.
And she's never seen a Pride fight before, or a Strikeforce fight.
But I can't blame her though. Like,
No, I can't blame her, but I don't blame her at all. I'm just saying that's to illustrate, like, even newer fans that are absolute hardcores like her, absolute stands for MMA, haven't seen that part of MMA history. It's a distant relic of the past.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like, in the weird twist of fate, though, a lot of those Pride guys went on to do relatively well for a time in the UFC to winning a championship, So it should be said that, the Pride and Strikeforce and even WEC, even though a lot of them, a lot of the successful guys were in the upper weight classes that the UFC didn't have, but a lot of them did do well. It's just, unfortunately...
Oh, if you want to talk WEC from the upper weight classes, we're talking about Carl Parisian. We're talking about Brian Stan.
Chael Sonnen did well too.
Chael Sonnen, Carlos Condit. I'm neglecting a few, but even WEC in the higher weight classes had a few interesting characters,
Yeah, no, for sure. All that to say that, like, as good of a thing it was, I do see your point. Maybe
That's what happens, man. Sports change.
Yeah,
Landscapes
it does.
change. Look at boxing. boxing fans have to realize that this is the sport now. We're not going to get the best fights. Cancellations all summer.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to you. You're a little.
Oh, I'm just saying. I'm trying to draw the comparison that the landscapes of sports change all the time.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
it's
for
like-
sure. But I think like with the UFC, because of the dominance of the one like label, one promotion, that it's almost
Yeah,
like
the
every
Shield is so
other
strong.
thing never happens.
Wait.
Almost.
Dominance?
No, of the UFC.
Are
I
you,
mean,
you think UFC is dominant?
From the
When ONE FC has over 10 million world champions! With 1 billion viewers streaming in over 40,000 countries around the world!
There was a period of time Dana was in love with one.
I like ONE FC
Yeah.
still. I just can't catch.
Do you also like gas station hot dogs?
For a while? Wait, no. ONE
Sorry,
FC
no. ONE FC would be more like what's something that pretends to be really fancy but actually isn't.
Ooh.
Pretends to be
The
very
Mandarin. They would be the
That is-
Mandarin.
yeah.
The Mandarin pretends to be fancy.
No. It would be kind of like one of those really douchey guys that buys a really old luxury car.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was having the same thought.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like
someone who buys like
spoilers on it. Yeah,
they buy
yeah,
like
yeah.
a 2005 Lexus, and they don't care that they're having to pay for imported parts. They just want to, and it's a complete sinkhole of money.
Hilarious.
They just want to put on the image that they're, the number one.
I mean, they do well in creating the image. Whatever. Hey, let's not get into ONE FC like rabbit hole. Whatever happened to their Apprentice show? I want to know about that.
It's so cringe. They advertise it for every time.
Yeah. Oh man.
We should
Wonder
do.
Girl, we love you, but
We should
I love
do.
you, Wonder Girl.
Hey, we should do a watch along one day of the one Apprentice show and just cringe out.
Hilarious. You know that would be a good idea. Actually. Yeah.
All right, more news. Come on. come on.
Next up, because today is the news podcast because we didn't have a fight last weekend.
What are you talking about? Bellator was Friday.
Yeah, and you didn't watch Rory McDonald's?
Yeah.
Rory McDonald fought.
Yeah, on
What?
Thursday. Yeah,
Brother,
yeah.
he lost.
He lost pretty bad too.
Yeah,
Two.
you guys
I thought we were actually gonna
by
talk
way
about
for
that.
the third.
Oh, he lost to Ray
Yeah.
Cooper.
Yeah. Like
God
pretty bad
damn.
too.
The third.
And not in the way you would think, where it's like a flash knockdown. Like he got
No, he got
out-wrestled and
dominated, out wrestled.
Yeah, it was not-
it was
Not
really
his
bad.
best night for sure.
Yeah, no, Rory. Look, I'm not saying Rory's losing. I'm not saying Rory's losing motivation for the game.
That was gonna be my question.
But Rory's maybe losing more motivation for the game. I'm not.
I can't comment because I haven't seen the fight, but I thought he beat Gleason Tebow handily, and I was like, all right, time to go on and win the
whole
$1 million.
thing.
Yeah, but okay. Before we get on to that, some topics that I'm competent to speak on. Daniel Rodriguez stepping up to fight Kevin Lee
I like that. But
at 170.
This has. Oh, okay. Now we're
Yeah,
talking.
Kevin Lee's
Okay,
making
I
the
was about
permanent
to say.
170.
Finally. Okay. That's probably bought him like 3 more fights in the UFC realistically by switching divisions.
And here's the thing: he's done this division switch before. He fought and lost to Ardia up at 170.
Yeah, but RD's a tough dude to have your first fight at a new division.
But you know what? Stylistically, I thought Kevin Lee was going to have that one in the bank, and ironically, the thing that Kevin Lee's really good at wrestling.
RDA, yeah.
RDA shut him down,
Yeah.
even though RDA's not very good against wrestlers at wrestling. So
I will say that Daniel Rodriguez, well, he's an interesting southpaw, has some very heavy hands. If Kevin Lee's losing to Daniel Rodriguez, then I think that the world champion that we all thought Kevin Lee was going to be is
I
not going to pan out.
think that with all due respect, and shouts out to Kevin Lee, hopefully he does make a title run, but I think like the chat of Kevin Lee being a realistic title contender like kind of flew out the window. At least in
ship
his
has
last
sailed?
fight. Yeah, I think the ship was sailed.
Even with the fight against Gregor Gillespie, still kind of.
But
fresh
that
in
was
our
like
memory.
what? I mean,
See-
he was coming off a 2-fight losing streak.
I've always
for
said
that
though, I've always saw Kevin Lee
Check.
as kind of Josh Koscheck 2.0. You know, I never really thought he was going to be a world champion. Maybe if like things broke right, like I always said, Josh Koscheck could have won if GSP wasn't in the division and things broke right for him. But I always just kind of saw him as a strong contender or upper gatekeeper. You know what I'm saying? I never really saw him as champion, and that's no disrespect to Kevin Lee. He's a fantastic fighter. It's just the problem is he's in a division with either some of the greatest of all time in Habib, Dustin, Conor, right? And then you go down the welterweight. You're telling me Kevin Lee's gonna beat Kamaru Usman? Come on,
No,
no. So
It's
I'm just want to kind of talk about his losses. So last loss was Charles Oliveira. I mean, come
World
on,
champion,
He's
right?
the world champion right now. RDA, former champion. He beat Gregor Gillespie or Gillespie, however you want to say that. He beat Edson Barbosa, which is pretty good.
Impressive.
Lost to Ali Quinta.
For whatever reason, Alan Quinta always has his number. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, these are obviously strong contenders in the lightweight division, but at the same time, if you're coming up short against these strong contenders in the lightweight division, it might be kind of a reckoning as far as where you sit within that very strong division. And it's unfortunate because
sometimes you gotta beat them. Like, unfortunately, you can't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the bar is here, and you got to make the bar. There's no discussion.
And I'll always get excited for a Kevin Lee fight, but
Oh,
it kind of seems like he might be finding a ceiling. Next up, I don't know if you guys, I didn't watch the Olympics, any of it. You did? Okay, so did you see Gable Stevenson?
No.
Oh, that final second,
Couldn't
like,
find the wrestling.
taking of the back, and
Well, it looks like he's at least making noise about a transition to MMA, and him and John Jones are in talks for training together. Gable Stevenson claiming he's going to be a UFC heavyweight champion within 15 months. How do you think somebody with his wrestling pedigree fits into the top end of the division? And I just want to say that for every DC, there's a Matt Lindland.
yeah.
And, several other Olympic medalists who have fought in Pride in the UFC before, whose names I don't remember because the experiments didn't really pan out. What do you think about Gable Stevenson?
I just feel like I don't know too much about this gentleman specifically, but I just feel like it's a different sport. And at this point, you got to give mixed martial arts the credit and respect that it deserves. It's kind of arrogant to think that you are going to train for 12 months, 15 months, whatever, and then become a champion is something that a lot of people have been spending their entire life training for. And, that's before we even get into wrestling in the Olympics. Is different from wrestling in mixed martial arts. We don't know what his, although I'm not sure how long wrestling matches in
3 minutes.
3 minutes,
Three
yeah.
rounds in the Olympics. 3 minutes, 3 rounds.
Yeah, something like that. But, I'm with you. My only trepidation is that it's heavyweight.
Yeah.
So I think he could do well, but a world champion in 15 months, I think that's...
I don't
let's
know.
hit the brakes.
I feel like we've reached
Pause.
a point.
Is that
though.
homophobic?
Yes. No. I feel like we reached a point though where you can't just be a freak athlete and dominate
Or
in the UFC.
have a high pedigree
in one thing.
discipline.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Look at people would probably say the same thing about, not to say that they're the same, because I do think wrestling is a little bit more intense and more sport specific than football, for example. But Greg Hardy, you would think, oh, this guy is the best athlete in the best athlete.
But though his feet couldn't move. And
Exactly.
then all of a sudden,
Yeah. He was sport specific, right?
Yeah, I just feel like there's a technique.
And Greg Hardy was, the UFC, the UFC,
cradled, yeah,
the
for
UFC
sure.
coddled him
Yeah.
to the nth degree, finding fighters that they knew weren't going to stick around for a long time.
Dude, did he win the gold medal? What did you say he won a medal?
He won.
he won.
Gable Stevenson won a gold medal in wrestling at heavyweight.
Oh, okay. I don't think Greg Hardy got anywhere close to, even though football wouldn't even transition, even if you got to the NFL. But Greg Hardy he in the NFL?
Was Greg Hardy?
You're a
in the NFL?
football player.
Guy.
He was.
I don't know anything about
Yes,
He was one of the better players.
He was
in the NFL.
Former Pro
Let's-
Bowler. Former Pro Bowler.
Oh, I'm tripping.
This guy.
You're the football guy.
Oh man.
Yo, realistically though, I haven't seriously started watching sports until 4 years.
I can attest to that.
I've always been the athlete. I've never been the. I know a bunch of guys who are just.
You're one of those athletes that was I don't even watch my sport, man.
I didn't. I didn't really watch
Hey,
it.
guys,
I only watched the only time I was really into sports was when the Ravens won the 2012.
So let me get this right. You're
Was Priest Holmes a good running back? Was he?
Who's Priest Holmes? So you're saying you're like Donald Cerrone who doesn't watch tape and doesn't watch
No, I watched.
No, he's like Derek Lewis who doesn't watch his sport at all.
No, I like tape. I just wasn't a hardcore fan of football or.
Jeremy, that was a bigger disappointment than Space Jam 2.
Jeez. The whole thing was that Greg Hardy was a top NFL.
did not.
Okay, well, back on Gable Stevenson.
Okay.
By the way, Gable, wow, you talk about parents who really wanted him to be a wrestler.
Yeah, really. Gable Greb.
But
You know who Gable Grip's named after? Right?
Nope.
Dan Gable.
Yeah, Gable Grip. I knew it.
I don't know anything about it.
Dan Gable, one of the best wrestlers of all time, now American coach.
Okay.
But anyway,
Shouts
to
out
put it in
Dan Gable.
perspective, To put in perspective, though, like Stefano mentioned, it is heavyweight. And, okay, you know, how is this? Okay, so typically, let's say, I'm going to use BJJ as an example. If a person trains 2 to 3 times a week, in about 5 to 7 years, they could potentially be either knocking on the door for a black belt or getting a black belt.
No.
You don't think so?
7 years?
2 to 3 times a week in 5 years?
No.
No.
Alright. You don't think so? Okay, fine.
No,
I would say
if they train...
Aren't there like white belts who like are still white belts after 3 years of training?
Dude, 5 to 7
You
years,
get-
you're
no,
going to
I'm
be a
talking-
purple
I'm talking
belt.
athlete.
You're going to be a purple belt, maybe a brown belt.
Yeah, but I'm talking athlete. I'm talking
2 to 3 times a week?
2 to 3 times a week.
Let's try, maybe 5-6 times a week. You'll be knocking on the door for a black belt.
I mean, I've seen guys do.
I'm gonna listen to the guy with the high belts on this.
Yeah, no,
It's no shots.
it's a good point. It's a good point, right? All right. Anyway, my point being is that if Gable Stevenson trains 2 a days, 3 times a week, and 1 a days, twice a week, giving him 5 days a week of MMA, in 18 months, will he be the greatest striker in the world? No.
Does he need all the tools, though, on the feet? Not necessarily.
Exactly, right?
He can be effective.
And we've seen Clarissa Shields kind of do, not necessarily
Not
saying
Clarissa
like
Shields.
this.
I think the more better comparable is Mackenzie Dern, right? Mackenzie Dern.
Or how about Cejudo?
Or Cejudo,
Because
right?
Dern's BJJ, Cejudo transferred directly from wrestling.
But
then again,
Cejudo looks like he's been, well, I don't know.
yeah, that's true. Cejudo put in the work and the time to develop a really...
Yeah, and let's not pretend like the Cejudo who entered the UFC is anywhere
same
near.
Cejudo
It was like, karate stand Cejudo, like, yeah.
But mind you, at heavyweight, and Dan Gable's a big dude.
Dan Gable?
He's gonna cut a
Gable
lot.
Gable Stevenson, sorry. My mind's on Dan Gable.
He's gonna come back.
Give him a 1-2 and a low kick, and when he gets guys to stand in place, a blast double that can carry him through the top 15 at heavyweight. Because the top 15, if you want to pull it up, it's not that good.
What's his jiu-jitsu like?
What's that?
See, this is
What's
the
his
thing.
jiu-jitsu like?
I
It's one thing
think-
to go like dominate in wrestling, but you still got to do something when you get.
I agree. What does the bottom game of the top 15 heavyweights look like in the UFC though? Not good.
Blagoy? Okay, I'm done. All right.
Well,
No
Blagoy's passable. No,
Blagoy could give you some problems. Olin
Blagoy-
could give you some problems. Although I don't think Olin
Not
should be
anymore.
there. No,
Not anymore.
maybe not Olin.
I think if this was the... And heavyweight's starting to show some promise now, but it doesn't have the strong jiu-jitsu players that it did of your, like, Frank Mir's and your Fabricio Verdums and your Nogueiras. It's not the same division.
No.
Heavyweight is not a jiu-jitsu heavy division.
Definitely
right?
a striker's division. Right now, at least.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, I would say a
Gavin
lot of
and
divisions are kind of transitioning to striker divisions right now. So, you know, that's not necessarily true for...
With the exception of 170.
Yeah, with the exception of 170.
And-
And even 170, Kamaru's what he's doing.
Yeah,
he's knocking out Jorge
boxing
Masvidal,
dudes
so,
up, yeah.
So, yeah, I just think that, look, is he going to be the greatest striker in the world? No. Is he going to have the greatest... Is he going to be throwing up heel hooks? No, he's not Cyril God. But he can be good enough that if you give him tools, 18 months of, like... And I'm talking extensive training.
Which I guess he'd
Yeah.
be used to being an Olympic wrestler.
No,
right?
David brought up a good point earlier, too, though. It's a different sport, and sometimes people have a style that's not as effective within
Yeah,
wrestling
calcifies
for
it.
MMA. Matt Lindland, Mark Munoz, although not necessarily an Olympian, was a very effective wrestler. Game based largely around counter wrestling, not super effective in MMA. And you see examples like this down the list. So I haven't watched a ton of tape on Gable Stevenson, but style of wrestling matters.
For sure.
Speaking of styles of wrestling,
Wait, hold on. Before we move on, I just want to give a shout out to... I know we're done. I want to give a shout out to the Olympics in general. Even though it is a corrupt organization and blah, 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 blah. I just want to say, man, these boxers and wrestlers, anyone doing a combat sport in the Olympics, we really need to give them some respect.
Yeah.
Because, like, those guys are definitely fighting injured. Like, that's the only way... And not to say, like, regular athletes don't fight injured, but the competition... The tournament-based nature of it, I feel like, just adds a certain more pressure that isn't there in a lot
Wait
of
till you get
other
to
sport.
wait till Muay Thai becomes an Olympic sport, kickboxing becomes an Olympic sport.
It's gonna be crazy,
And
man.
you're gonna get so many guys are gonna pull out.
It's gonna be crazy, man.
so
Like,
many guys.
yeah. So, shouts out to anybody who can make it through one of those brackets because it's not a joke. And if you watch, like, because I was watching some of the earlier rounds of, like, boxing, and you got, like, randoms, just literally randoms from, like, Angola, Zambia, coming to knock dudes, like, these Russian dudes' heads up. And, you know, there's different styles, like, in one, anyway, not to get too deep into it, but in one fight you might get, like, a power puncher, and another one you got, like, a classic boxer. Like, I feel like people don't give enough credit to dudes who are able, like, even Deontay Wilder's, like, bronze, in perspective, like, I'm actually very impressed by it, because to think about, you gotta fight at least 2 or 3 different styles, and these are dudes who've been training for their entire life, just like you have.
Solely for the Olympics.
Solely for the Olympics.
Yeah, like
and
the Cuban system, you can get paid better than a pro.
For sure.
Just
and
for being in the
it's not like other, like, sports where, you know, you reach a certain age and you turn pro and blah. No, like, you got dudes who are, like, in their 30s fighting, like, in the Olympics. And you got dudes who are 18, peak of their lives, like, fighting as well. So, yeah, I just wanted to say, like, that was something that really stood out to me in the Olympics.
I never really thought about that, the fighting injury when you're doing a combat sport. Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are
really
the...
thought about that.
Oh, Jeremy, I've fought injured every fight I've had.
Yeah, there you go. Stefano just been holding it in. He's like, oh.
If we had,
Not good, not
story time.
not
Injured or hurt?
Let's see.
Like legitimately injured?
Torn ACL, torn intercostal muscles in my ribs, which are the muscles that literally control your breathing in your ribs. Torn LCL, nerve damage in my neck, where, like, a tap on the head would shoot pain from my head down to my fingertips, and my whole arm would go numb. Yeah, those are just a few. All right, what do you think?
I mean, if we
You're
have
definitely injured. You're
Yeah.
definitely injured. So.
If we-
Because, like,
have
hurt,
story time,
I walk around hurt on a daily basis. Like, you know, this is pulled, that's pulled, I'm sore here, I'm sore there. That's just life, you know? But
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, no disrespect to other sports, because all sports are difficult and all sports require some kind of athletic kind of endeavor.
except golf.
I mean, for example, I was watching the diving with my girlfriend, and diving is hilarious because you see those girls taped the hell up, because, you know, they are just
Wow! Splashing into
Yeah.
the pool.
Yeah.
brutalizing
Over
their
and
joints
over and
It's
over
so
again.
crazy.
Awful. Gymnastics, too.
Yeah, gymnastics
We,
as well.
we,
yeah.
we see all the I mean, I was watching a compilation the other day of just gymnasts where falls go wrong, and it is.
Oh yeah, Simone Biles is a coward for not wanting to go.
Yeah, no, it's
Oh,
crazy.
my
Like,
God.
man,
Like
Anyone who says Simone Biles is a coward is just an armchair quarterback in the worst possible sense. Like,
dumbass. Yeah, they take, first of all, they take away her medicine, so she can't even focus.
wait, which medicine was that?
She needs adrenaline.
That's right. They tried to make it a big scandal. I remember certain people's on a certain political side of the aisle were trying to make it a big deal that she tested positive for Ritalin.
But she got a therapeutic exemption, so okay, whatever. So now she can't use that because Japan's laws take precedent. And then nearly falls on her neck and goes, nope, I'm peacing out and only going for the balance beams because I can't fall on my neck there. Oh, she's a coward. Okay, how about you go out there and try falling?
Yeah.
You know, like, shut up.
yeah. Sorry, that was a really weird aside about the Olympics, but yeah, shout out to all the Olympians out there.
Yeah.
So this is very important. Chael Sonnen, I think I got him right here. I'm not actually going to smash it. If you're wondering why I'm referencing a very obscure MMA meme, it's because someone is
It's
back.
actually an obscure.
The real king of cringe,
I got it.
right? As I do inside the octagon, he's ready. How are you feeling? The 300,000-year-old Seraldo Babalu. Tell me what you were seeing in the when you were doing that in the octagon. If you know these obscure MMA memes that I'm referencing,
Very abstract.
just to be clear, there was never no marriage. It's Tito Ortiz, and he's back. He's fighting Anderson Silva in a boxing fight. Thank you, Triller. Thank you, Triller.
Giving the people what they need. Not even what they want, what they need.
Triller is worse than bare knuckle. It's worse than Bellator at its worst. It's worse than a steaming pile of dog shit dropped off on your front door by kids who are egging your house on Halloween.
Okay, you know what's funny though? I will say on bare knuckles defense, bare knuckles is the fastest growing combat sport.
Stop!
No, that's what these it's statistics.
Stop! Okay, what other
What
comment
statistics, Mike?
Yeah, what
Did you hear this? Did you hear this on a bare knuckle broadcast?
No. It was. I read an article about this. I didn't
Oh,
actually get the source. I won't lie to you, but I read.
An unsourced claim.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
No. They had it sourced. source.
Also,
but-
if you don't check into the source, fastest growing, I mean, like, you know, MMA is pretty well-known household name.
What
If
does
5
that
people are
mean?
watching bare knuckle and then 30 people start watching
Yeah,
bare
yeah,
knuckle,
yeah,
wow,
of
that's
course.
6 times the growth. It's the
Well,
fastest growing
Stefano,
combat
if you-
sport.
If you don't mind condescending me for just 1 second,
Hilarious.
if you can break it down just a bit.
I don't mind condescending.
if you can just break it down just a bit, I'm just saying, in their defense, something might be working. We don't know.
I'm with Stefano on this one. I
Like,
just don't see it.
Name
First-
me, yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I just don't.
No, I'm
like,
not bad
what
at
are
it.
the
I'm
other
not-
like combat sports that it's competing with? Like, is there like a big like wushu sanda like kind of like?
Which I enjoy watching a good side of the match. I'm not gonna lie.
Who doesn't? But like fastest growing, like what other combat sports are experiencing media or growth that aren't already kind of calcified in their regions of the world? Like,
I get that.
and name one homegrown star from bare knuckle.
couldn't.
It's all the scraps that have been picked up from UFC and Bellator.
Yeah.
No disrespect to
No
those
disrespect to
fighters.
those
No, I
fighters
mean,
who
like,
are putting
they're in
their
the
lives on
system-
line, yeah.
they're in
There's
the
a
system
system
that-
where they need to do it because
Yeah, yeah,
unfortunately Dana White is not paying these guys good money to go into retirement. Like I get all of it. I'm just saying in their defense, apparently, like I read the article. They did have it sourced. I just didn't go to watch it. I'm just saying in their defense, according to an article, they got it.
You're going to see a man in a suit and a top hat in a second sent over from bare knuckle pop in and put a few dollar bills in Mike's pocket.
No, but anyway,
Can
my
we
point-
talk about?
I'm going being about Triller. And,
Can we talk
and
about how
Nasser.
shitty Triller is?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
they're
Wait, but I don't mind this one though. Like, what's your problem with the Anderson Silva Tito
Well-
Ortiz fight?
Okay,
Like, that seems like a
I
pretty...
do want to see Tito Ortiz get beat up because he is a fascist.
He's
An
turned
outright
into
fascist.
yeah.
And he ran.
has turned into a fascist.
Yeah,
That's pretty funny.
but my problem with Treller is that have you seen any of the coverage that they've done? Have you watched a Treller event?
Yeah, I watched the, was it the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren one, right?
It is the
On Triller.
most disrespectful,
Yeah, it was
like,
not good.
not good. In the middle of the fight, just cutting to the commentary, cracking jokes, talking shit about the fighters.
Yeah.
Like we're watching a bunch of 14-year-olds who have never watched a fight in their
Like,
life
Snoop,
before.
please, no more, man. No
Yeah,
more commentary.
it was the
for Snoop.
most, like, this is the most horrible, disgusting, like, to put on, I wouldn't have had a big problem with it if somebody else was putting it on. If you want to do it in bare knuckle, if you want to do it in Bellator.
I wouldn't want to see a bare knuckle fight. You see, that's where like maybe we defer. Like, I wouldn't want to see a bare knuckle fight between Anderson Silva and Tito Ortiz. Maybe because they're just like legends and they just don't deserve. No disrespect to anybody who's fought bare knuckle, but they don't deserve to go out like that. It's a little too. Not caveman-y, but a little too gladiator-y.
Yeah,
for
it seems a
liking.
little like
Yeah.
step down in class.
Well,
yeah, but then again,
dogfighty.
this is,
I mean,
This to
although
me,
that's
though-
what people said about MMA. To be fair,
I can see the comparison, though, because bare knuckle does give me that feeling.
you feel dirty after watching.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
but this makes me feel dirtier watching it. Treller feels
at
like...
least we know they're
it
getting
feels
paid
like-
for this, though. Like,
Are they, though?
Yes. Realistic. Triller is just handing out checks.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, they've
Triller-
been giving guys money.
Triller feels like
in
the
the last
three-ring
fight, I
circus
can't
to me.
remember who it was. It might have been the Jake Paul fight. They had Justin Bieber and Saweetie there, and Doja Cat. Justin Bieber, Saweetie, and Doja Cat as like the three performers. Those are like three headline performers.
Well,
Once again, they must be paying ridiculous amounts of money.
enjoy it while it lasts, because it's not going to last. And I wouldn't want it to last, so I won't enjoy it.
Oh wait, and they also
What?
bought what you call it? We were talking about this last part. They bought Versus, right?
Yeah, they did
So
buy
like
Versus.
you know they are trying to create like different spot. What's the word? The way they would frame it, I would say, is like they're creating different avenues for alternative content, whether it's like
they're
celebrity
basically
boxing.
doing a weird version
Exactly.
of horizontal integration. I hear you.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
Please break down that
I mean,
common word for me.
you know that these companies are only loyal to the money. So it's like the first event with Mike Tyson and Roy Jones went.
Yeah, that's true.
surprisingly
They did that
well.
one too. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like they're like, okay, maybe we have space to try some risk, and then they ended up falling flat on their face with the Ben Askren.
Well, I wouldn't say they fell flat on the
It
face.
got the
in
looks,
terms of what
yeah.
they wanted, they did get what they wanted.
They got the looks, and they're only in this for the looks. Let alone, I don't even think like they care about like the PPV, like the pay-per-view number. They probably are just like judging themselves. I would imagine being
off of
app-
like Instagram
and like downloads, like app downloads or impressions or whatever. Like we don't know the metrics.
I mean,
like,
in terms of this fight itself, too, like keep in mind, Anderson Silva was like what a month removed from being a former world champion. You
Wait,
know,
how's he a world champ?
beating a former world champion.
Beating world. Oh yeah, I guess.
So it may be.
Wait, who's the former world champion?
Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
I mean, Mike is definitely
MMA.
using that very liberally, but yes, he is technically.
I mean,
he was a former champion.
He's going to be the brakes off Tito Ortiz. Tito
Yeah,
in
no,
the best of
yeah,
times
for
was
sure.
not a good striker.
No.
In the peak of his career, he was not a good striker. You know,
I mean, but he just beat what's his name?
Chuck Liddell.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did you see that fight?
No.
Did you see what Chuck Liddell looked like in that
No,
fight?
I did not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to watch that.
I don't advise it. It's like if you're in the mood to cry. I love me some Chuck.
Oh man, yeah.
All right, let's move on.
What's even more embarrassing though is that Tito Ortiz is considering that a legitimate win, capping off the trilogy.
Jeez.
He's crazy. He's crazy. Jenna Jameson really messed him up, didn't she?
Wow.
I hate to say it. I'm just saying.
Well, you know what, Mike? Just to be clear, there was never no marriage. Do we have time for one more small piece of news?
Yeah, we got all the time. Like,
Yeah.
that's all we're doing.
And
right?
we're doing boxing news too. 'cause-
Boxing
Let's talk about
news.
this.
Yeah, Jeremy's obsessed. You get that. He
Yeah.
was steaming.
So, okay. If that's the case, Edmund Tribasian versus Nasser Demi Mavov. I like it.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm not really too familiar with the Mavov's work, but yeah.
Mavov won in his last performance. He knocked out who's a Wazzle? The one who fought Gastelum
Yeah.
with the funky anti-wrestling. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no.
Hackpurst?
No.
No.
Hackprest is Halal Kelvin Gastelum.
Right.
But good fight. Good fight. I like what I saw of Imavov's boxing. He seems particularly susceptible to low kicks, unfortunately. So that's a pretty clear path to victory for Shabazian. But
Shabazian will probably gas out within the first minute. Like what?
well, Imavov's not going to wrestle him. That's the thing. Imavov's probably not going to wrestle him
Good
offensively.
point. Good point.
So this might be the kind of stylistic fight that brings out the best in Imavov because, in Shabazian. We will see.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to go here, but Glendale will be in Shabazian's corner, so you know he's going to regress.
We go here every
No! Head moment. Speaking of ancient MMA memes.
Yeah, really.
And the flute. Remember the flute of Heart Will Go On.
Okay.
All right.
So,
all right.
do we have any more?
A couple of other things. Jacare Souza retires from
David,
MMA.
move the black water bottle, by the way.
Jacare Souza retires from MMA.
Yeah, it's about time.
It's about time. So another fighter that because he was fighting in Strikeforce didn't get his dues. People were talking about him who were in the know as the guy to beat Anderson Silva, and back in Anderson's prime, I thoroughly enjoyed me some Jacare back in the day. He was a scary man.
Could strike a bit too, and that was the thing.
Yeah, he could hit a mean cross counter over the top.
So that was the whole thing. It's like if he's not gonna get Anderson Silva with the jiu-jitsu, he might get him on the feet, but like
so excellent representative of jiu-jitsu and MMA, and went out on a low note, but competitive until a very old age in one of the UFC's toughest divisions. So, you guys got anything else for his career?
No, shouts out to Jacare Souza. Snap.
What's your favorite Jacare Souza fight for you guys?
Mike, you go first while I Google.
you know what? What was it? There was like the one before he fought Hermanson. Was it Gastelum or Weidman? I can't remember, but
The one where he starts Schweidman?
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
a great knockout.
that was So why do I always think Gastelum is the one that he faced before? Oh, it's because Gastelum faced Weidman and whatever. But the point is, I really like that fight because you know what? I actually had Weidman up, and Jacare. You don't really get to see Jacare's heart on display a lot, but he does have it.
Oh yeah.
He has it, and to see it on a display, I think at the time 39 years old was really nice to see. So.
Absolutely. And who can forget his pair of fights with Gegard Mousasi?
Yeah.
Dominating the first one back in Dream, lost by op kick, somewhat flukily, and then I just remember that being the one blemish on his record for the longest amount of time. and he was just waiting to get that back, and eventually did in the UFC.
Yeah.
And absolute monster on the mat.
For sure.
Oh, okay, so I've done my Googles, and I'm not sure I watched Jacare in his prime, if I'm going to be honest.
No, Strike Force and Dream would have been his prime.
Yeah, because I vaguely remember the Chris Weidman one for sure, so I'm not going to say that. I remember the Gastelum fight, but then after that is, his 4 losses in a row, so I'm not sure I got to see the best of Jacare, if I'm going to be honest.
And I remember the Gastelum fight. He fought the fight of his life in that one, too. So,
Yeah,
like, there was a period where, like, 38, 39 pre-Hermanson, like around that time, I was like, he's making a late run of it. It's just that I feel so bad because I love Whitaker, and Whitaker had to send to the shadow realm to get that title shot.
Yep.
He had to do it. So
Shout out Robert Whitaker, man. But also shout out Jacare Souza, legend.
Shouts out to everybody.
Shout out to everybody.
Shouts out to the
Everybody.
world.
Okay, another.
We are the world.
I love how we said this was gonna be the last piece of news, and we just had like 3 more.
No,
David's got another one.
there's always more news, man. Okay, so we have Clarissa Shields, Jeremy's girlfriend, is fighting Abigail Montez, October 27th.
Who the hell is that
Tell you she's
girl?
gonna win or not right now. Right?
Montez will enter the match with a 2-0 record.
Okay.
Yeah, she's losing.
Okay, until then, okay.
Clarissa Shields? How about Clarissa Swords?
Mike,
Let's be
did you
honest.
have more thoughts on the McDonald fight? Because I actually watched that fight. I don't know why, but for some reason I saw it on ESPN.
I went back and watched it after hearing that Rory lost.
I gotta say this. Okay, I watched it live. Weirdly enough, I just happened to be awake watching ESPN on a Thursday night because I'm a socialite. And for some reason, not for some reason, I get it, but PFL was definitely giving McDonald the push. If I'm not mistaken, Cooper is like the reigning champion, right? Like for PFL.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and apparently he still, and when he said this, it actually reminded me a lot of you, Mike. He still trains in his garage with his dad, who's a former fighter, and his brother, who's a fighter.
Yeah.
And
Ray Cooper.
Yeah, Ray Cooper, and that's all he does. Like, he doesn't go like from gym to gym. He doesn't train with different guys. He literally fights in like his garage.
Well,
with his dad.
He
beat
can do
Rory
that.
McDonald.
He can do that. Keep in mind because Ray Cooper is a legend. So.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, he fought Jake Shields back in the day, lost, and then his son avenged the loss against Jake Shields, knocking him out twice, 2 months apart, I believe.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, like they can do that. Like so for everyone listening, if your dad's not a legend in the combat sport that you're pursuing,
My dad's a legend. Sorry.
please do not train out of your garage unless it's COVID and you need to hit the pads and your brother is a pretty good pad holder.
You want to hear a funny story about that, by the way?
Pretty good.
So I got a funny story about that. So I'm not going to mention any names, but on the last card that I fought on, there was a certain kind of heavyweight, and he was riding in the bus to the bus. They picked us up in a special van or whatever to drive us to the
special van.
free candy special van. They drove us in this van, picked us up to the event, which was at a casino, and this guy hops in. He's about 2 inches shorter than me and heavyweight.
Oh snap! Okay, big boy.
Built like Dr. Robotnik from Sonic. Tiny little legs, big ass belly, and just like Dr. Robotnik style, like huge gut. And so I get talking to him, and he's a nice guy. And he's like, yeah, the weight cut went pretty good. My wife helped me get down to 265. She helped me with a diet. And I look at his wife, and she is like morbidly obese.
Oh snap!
And I'm like, she's in the truck too. I'm like, the van. I'm like, that's nice, And I'm like, we're just talking about, preparation for the fight. Like my coach is really good. I train out of garage MMA. I'm like, oh, that's a funny pun. Like it's in a garage, right? He's like, no, it's literally in a garage. I'm like, oh, fuck. Oh no. Where's Corin? Let's get Corin to fight this guy.
That's funny.
No, but yeah, I'm just like, well, good luck to you, sir. And he just got demolished, like exactly as you would expect. There are some people in the United States that it tends not to happen as much in Canada, and they just choose to fight for some reason.
I think Max Holloway said that he took his first fight without ever training, which sounds like one of those urban kind of myths kind of thing, but I could also see a reality where
Max always says a lot of funny stuff, though.
he does say a lot of funny stuff.
Man, this guy once said this is how he learned his striking by playing a UFC video
He
game.
did
Like,
say that. I watched the same interview, yeah. And so did what's his name? The Sugar Sean.
Well,
That's what he said.
Low key, I'm not gonna lie. I told Jeremy this. Sometimes to just get my creativity back, what I'll do is I'll
I
turn
can
on
see it.
Tekken 7
I can see
and just
Wait, no, not
I
Tekken
swear-
7,
I
bro.
swear
Like,
to God-
no.
I
The
swear to
UFC game, which is based
No, I'll
on
play it.
real moves, I can get.
Pause.
I
Is that
swear,
homophobic?
Yes.
I swear to God, what I'll do is I'll turn on the practice mode on Tekken 7 and just of course I'm not gonna take the flippy shit, but
Hilarious.
I just
Kids, we're going to put a timestamp on this part where Mike starts talking nonsense. And you just-
100%.
What are those COVID-19 warnings at the bottom? We did not endorse anything.
No,
we're gonna-
Michael, gear it towards the actual fighters that you use, and
This
not
guy says
the
Tekken 7.
and not the friggin' people. When you say Tekken 7, people think monsters. And
Yeah. No,
We're gonna-
I use
we're
the
gonna-
Taekwondo guy.
We're Taekwondo. Okay, now we're starting talking crazy.
Now we're really talking crazy.
We're gonna get a couple of guys in a white van to come along and just put Mike in a nice little coat that makes him hug himself,
Hilarious.
and it'll be taken off to a nice little place where he gets three meals of chili a day.
But no, Mike, okay, back to the topic. I wanted to ask, did you have any thought about the McDonald's fight? Because I'll give my thoughts and say, he really got dominated.
He looked, honestly.
And
What was the result of the fight? Decision?
Unanimous decision. I think
And
it might have been a 30-26.
It
on
was
all
a
three.
30-26?
On all three. I think it might have been a 30-26.
I thought it might have been 30-27.
It might have been?
Yeah.
I heard 30-26, but I might be wrong. Okay.
Walk us through the fight.
Huh?
Walk us through the fight. Let's hear your analysis. Analysis.
Man, Ray Cooper just... Okay, Ray Cooper put him in, ironically, the grind cycle that Roy McDonald
Yeah.
put guys.
And ironically, they said before the fight that, while Cooper might have the explosiveness to give McDonald a lot of trouble, McDonald's is so ring savvy and such a vet that if he gets into
And a great wrestler.
exactly
Great wrestler.
if he gets into a grappling exchange that he realistically would have the advantage, but that's kind of what he did. He tried to. He didn't really want to strike with Ray Cooper.
Of course not.
And then he tries to get into pretty much clinching scenarios and just kind of gets ragdolled.
It was really surprising.
Yeah.
It was really surprising. And I hate to do this because it's we just accosted Jeremy last week for saying, someone's head wasn't in the game. But
Yes, we did.
I have a question. Who was in his corner? Because I know for his last fight he was training at Sanford MMA.
I don't know.
it wasn't TriStar. It wasn't TriStar. So there might.
Yeah, because I know he was in. I know he was at Sanford MMA before, and I don't know that it was. I'm not sure if it was out of necessity because of Montreal's closures of MMA gyms, or if he's actually just trying out something new. But I don't know. I know Sanford MMA is obviously an elite gym, but sometimes one gym might not be a good fit for a certain fighter. I'm just speculating here, not to take anything away from Ray Cooper. I'm an absolute stan for Roy McDonald. Full disclosure, but I obviously got to watch the fight, so I'm gonna shut the fuck up.
I mean, look.
It wasn't his best performance. I think even he would say that. And I just feel like he had no answer really for the top control. I know what that means from.
You don't know what
Cooper.
top control means?
I do know what that means, but not really. I mean, I know what it means
When
from
you're
watching.
on top
but
of somebody, it's
I
top
know.
control.
I know what it
It's
means.
when you're in a position that you're establishing your control over someone, and because you're on top, you have gravity on their side. And
I felt like Rory, from what I understand, is a pretty good jiu-jitsu player, if I'm not mistaken. So
phenomenal.
Yeah, wonderful.
I just feel like he wasn't active enough in the bottom for me personally.
I really do think he hasn't had the motivation to fight. I hate to do that. I feel sick.
You heard that, David? He's a quitter.
Hilarious. And I just think it's interesting. Also,
Stephen A. Smith?
hilarious. Really.
I said Stephen A. Smith?
I just really.
Oh, yeah, because Stephen A. Smith. Yeah. Yes. Stephen A. Smith would be perfect right now.
Man, no, because I feel sick doing this because I love Roy McDonald and I know Roy McDonald's a great fighter.
Do you find
I've seen him fight through adversity. Remember when Douglas Lima made him have a pregnant leg? Like, so.
I was gonna say, do you find it weird he's fighting on PFL? Not to be disrespectful to PFL or Rory McDonald.
Well, I think it was a Bellator. Like, I think he didn't like what Bellator was doing with him, and he went to PFL. So
there's money to be made there. There's money to be made there. They're backed by big money, I believe, as well. Yeah, if they're gonna pay him, whatever.
And they have a solid relationship with the UFC, ironically. So
yeah,
it's like
I just thought like the
PFL,
the whole point of PFL, it's kind of, with all due respect, a feeder league, into like the UFC. So
I don't know about that.
No,
no, I think they're trying to do their own thing. I don't think it used to be either.
I mean,
like they've had stars like Lance Palmer and what's her name, Kayla Harrison. Like, I think they're their own stable of fighters, but with all due respect, kind of like a B-tier promotion, very much so.
Okay, so it's more so a case of guys when they just go to the UFC because it's like, it is a feeder.
At least to my knowledge, I don't think there's anything set up where Dana gives up Ray Seffo a call and says, "Hey, who you got for me this week?"
Hilarious. So it's not Dana White.
Yeah, so it's not like it's not like LFA. Yeah, it's not LFA.
Okay, I might be just mixing them up. Honestly, it's too many letters.
No, but here's my thing. I just truly think that Rory just didn't want to be there after a certain period of time. Am I wrong in saying that? Do you think I'm wrong? David, you watched the fight?
I feel like he was dominated, and after a while did not employ the creativity or kind of like tactical things you would expect from a veteran. Like, if you feel like you're getting dominated on the ground for 2 rounds, like, why would you try and grapple in the third? You know what I mean? Like,
man, and this has been like an ongoing narrative with Rory.
Easy to say.
Yeah, this has been an ongoing narrative with Rory ever since he kind of took up the cross and has decided the Lord.
Hilarious.
No, I'm serious, because that's what he said it himself, that he didn't feel like hurting people, and this was his thing. He was like, I didn't feel like hurting people, and all of a sudden his style, which was a little more violent, actually turned safe. And I don't know what that means for here. This could be square peg in a round hole for me, but
I mean, not to get too specific into that, but there could be something to that, like, religion. I'm not religious. I don't claim to be, but I know religion's a very personal journey for people individually, and there have been people who, use their faith in God as like a weapon, I suppose, to strengthen their resolve. And then for some people, their own path to religion might take them on something where they feel more pacifistic and they don't want to hurt people anymore. Bible's a wide document. There's a lot of literature in it. There's a lot of genocide, and there's also a lot of love thy neighbor. So...
Well, I feel like we got to start. I'm trying. There's a lot of genocide in it.
In the Bible, is there not?
There is a lot of genocide.
You ever seen the Book of Joshua?
Yeah.
Anyways, point being, like, if Rory's convictions lead him to not want to hurt people, that makes sense. I haven't seen this fight. I really can't tell, but I wouldn't necessarily. Now we're getting into
that's the thing. Like, I hate esoteric. Like, oh, maybe he didn't want to be there. Maybe he quit. Like, I don't like. I just technically speaking, Ray Cooper just put him in the grind cycle for 3 rounds. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not like other sports where you can hide behind like a team or anything. It's like you're in there alone, so you might not have necessarily quit. I was thinking about it, you might not have necessarily quit. Maybe it just so happened to be that this person's just that much better than you.
Yeah, and sometimes you realize it, and there's really not much you can do.
Yeah, and you're in despair, and there's no hope, so you're just kind of going through the motions, trying to survive, trying to figure out a way to see a mistake here and there, and then they just never give it to you. So now it looks like you quit, but in reality, you're just trying to survive until you can see something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So
they might never give it to you, but X gonna give it to you.
Oh, man.
Fuck waiting for you to get it on your own. X gonna deliver it to you.
All right.
Well, for the final of that, there's gonna be Cooper the third versus Magomed Karimov. I watched the Magomed Karimov versus Mamadou Sai fight. Oh boy. Okay, I have a question for you guys.
Yeah, Karimov is good, ain't he?
He's good. Yeah, no, he's a really. He's a wrestler, right? So he did what most kind of Russian wrestlers do. It just put him in the grind cycle. The other dude was like some kind of ripped Swedish black dude. and really.
They have black dudes in Sweden?
Yes. I mean, he's clearly like a migrant of some sort, but yes. And he really did not put out a good performance. I think he would even say that. But I have a question for you guys, just randomly, because this may be the last time we can do this in person for a while. Top 5 Canadian fighters of all time. Does Rory McDonald fall in that?
I think you have to.
Yeah, I think you got.
Okay.
I think you got to put him in there for sure.
Let's
maybe at 5 though. Like,
this is a fun conversation. Yeah, let's.
Okay.
So number 1,
All right.
we got to do Georgie.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
number one is George.
he's a lot. Yeah, he's a
There's
lot.
no debating that.
100%.
Now, are we restricting ourselves? Let's restrict ourselves to MMA.
Yes,
'Cause
MMA only.
Other combat sports, we've got Gabriel Varga, we've
Lennox
got
Lewis,
Lennox Lewis,
like, yeah.
Yves Theriault,
Technically, Lennox is British
Canadian.
or
Don't
Jamaican.
do that. He's Canadian. He's all
he said
three
hey man,
religions.
all he did was
He
migrate
fought
to
for Canada
all
under
that
the
shit.
Mike,
in
what's
the
your
Olympics.
beef
Like,
with
what are you talking
Lennox?
about?
What's your beef with
We'll
Lennox
talk-
Lewis?
we'll
Did
talk
he?
off air.
Did
We'll
he?
talk
Did he?
off-
We'll talk off air.
Lennox
Okay.
Lewis snubbed Michael, and he's not been able to get over it.
we'll talk
Snubbed him for an interview. and
Okay, yeah, but a legitimate question about Lennox Lewis, unrelated to your experience with him. Did he accost you at some kind of sporting event? Mike?
We'll talk.
Did he maybe tell you to get out of the way or something?
Yeah. Did you ask him for something and he didn't really want to do
We
it?
will
or-
talk
And then Mike did the whole
okay.
Arthur clenched fist meme.
All we'll
And
say
since then,
is.
he's been seeking
All we'll
vengeance.
Mike,
say is
Lennox
I
Lewis-
had a physical altercation with Lennox Lewis.
Lennox Lewis was like,
Oh, wait,
sit down,
wait.
boy. I'll
Lennox-
put you in your place. And Mike's like, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. All right. You're
All
world
we'll-
champion. You beat Mike Tyson.
All we'll say is me and Lennox Lewis had a physical altercation.
You think you could
Wait,
beat him in a fight, Mike?
Yo,
We will
is
be
Michael
like that.
saying that he put hands on Lennox Lewis right now?
Mike, I think Mike's claiming he beat up Lennox Lewis.
We will talk up there.
Mike, are you saying Lennox Lewis has no jiu-jitsu?
We will talk up there. We will talk.
I took him down. I put him on his back. I made him tap for mercy.
We will.
He's like, please,
I
Michael.
do
Please.
not
please,
wanna-
Michael.
I do
Let me
not
get
want
free.
to talk about this. I
Okay.
do not want to talk.
All right, so moving on to top 5 Canadian MMA fighters. I mean, Mike has to be up there after beating Lennox
That's what I was
Lewis.
going to say.
Listen,
After beating Lennox
Lennox
Lewis.
Lewis, yeah, no,
we will talk
Dude,
off air.
do street fights count as MMA? I mean,
if they're in an arena, then technically.
he showed Lennox his jab. He's like, Lennox, you don't want to. It wasn't an arena. That's right.
Michael, I'm not impressed with that jab.
Please,
Please, Michael, let me go. I may have been a world champion, but I'm just a full world champion now. So.
Michael, my dreads, they're killing me.
He put him in a Jamaican necktie. That's where you take the dreads and.
It was not racist.
Well, you know what's
It was
funny?
not racist.
My old boxing coach RG used to have a move. Say he had a move called the Jamaican necktie.
Which was what?
It was just any choke that he did on anyone.
Hilarious.
He was Jamaican.
Okay, back to the list. Who else?
So-
Patrick Cote.
So Cote is up there now. The Cote is in that territory of, he had a competitive fight with Anderson Silva in his prime, which is saying something. But he just made it to that level of contender. Had a good run at welterweight, right, where he was able to beat top 10 competition, but ultimately petered out and retired. So he could be up there. We've got Mark Homnick.
Yeah. Although Mark Homnick's later was.
Yeah, of course. Let's see. David Loiseau. Carlos Newton.
Carlos Newton is Canadian?
Hey, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. Who else do we have here? Sam Stout never really made it to the same heights as these other guys, but obviously a very good MMA fighter as well. Great MMA fighter, you might say. God. Who else made it within title contention? Who am I missing as far as female MMA fighters?
Julia Budd.
Julia Budd, good, but Sarah Kaufman, I suppose. Was Sarah McMahon's Canadian?
Oh, is she?
I believe Sarah McMahon's Canadian.
Let me know this.
Wait, or I might be talking out of my anus.
You might be talking out of your
Yeah,
ass,
I think she's American.
Man, no, it's hard to find him.
We claim you.
So
You're out now.
it's difficult to. I mean, the top one is easy, but just like
Sarah McMahon's an Olympic wrestler.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't know that. Anyway, sorry. Go.
Mick Mahan, you know.
But yeah, no, I'm gonna be honest. I thought like that would go on for a little bit longer.
we're still trying to parse out who falls within what territory.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys just kind of.
No, that's not actually. I thought I would have more to say, but I can only think of like 2 or 3 really top.
I think,
And I think
Rory
2
has
or
to be
3
up there.
Rory has to be up there.
I think we're going George.
Rory, surely.
But
Like,
how do you
Rory
rank?
above, like Patrick Cote?
But Carlos Newton was a champion.
I mean,
Oh,
even,
yeah.
even if he was
that's,
just,
like,
just for a
that's a
brief.
different era, though.
I mean, he,
though.
It is,
he
but you-
beat Pat Miletich, right? Like,
We're-
he
we're-
got it to him.
We're weighing accomplishments, I guess, based on their time, right? Like it was a different era, but
He did struggle his way towards the end, though. So it's like.
of course. Let's see. Maybe we can pull up can you pull up a list of Canadian mixed martial arts? Because
Yeah,
I know there's
phone's
some
right
I'm
here.
forgetting.
All right, let me get
Chris Hordesky, obviously very good, but never really made it to the.
If you want, I
UFC.
can put a list up for the,
Yeah,
for the
please
viewers
put a
too.
list.
Yeah, put a list up.
All right, let me look something up here, boys. In the meantime, let's go to boxing news with Jeremy Asiffo and then come back to it. No.
Boxing.
I want to say something really
Oh,
quick.
hold on, man. Let's transition with our transitions that we
Wait, are you sure? Let's finish up this MMA
Yeah, I feel
segment
like
and
we
then
should
we'll.
do that first.
All right, fair enough.
I feel like we should finish this.
Fair enough.
Jeremy's
All
got
right.
his rants.
Jordan Mean.
Jordan Mean, solid fighter.
Misha Serkinov.
Misha just never really sniffed top 10 though. I love Misha Serkinov, but he just never really got there. So, can you put him there? Like,
Top 5? I don't think so, unfortunately.
Heavyweights. Gary Goodridge.
Gary was.
love him. Not the greatest fighter though. Like more of an entertainer.
I'll just pick the ones with a winning record. No disrespect. Tanner Bozer.
Showing potential, but maybe a little bit too early to be ranked on a top 5 list.
So
What
guys,
do you-
what's our top 10?
Yeah, unless you guys find a reason
John
to change
McDessie?
that.
I thought we were doing top
McDessie.
5.
Yeah, I would
Sorry,
say.
top 5. Top
10,
5.
10's going to be hard.
I would
top
say George number 1,
Okay.
Newton number 2. Then I'm probably going to have to go Rory, Homnick, and then 5 you could do Stout. You could do maybe I'd go
I
for
honestly think Elias probably had the better career when it's all said and done than Stout.
over.
Over Stout. I love Stout. I love
True, I agree. But do you do Elias over Cote?
That's the problem, right? Like,
I think it's conversation. I think you'd have to go give it to Cote just based on his title shot.
yeah, like he got there, but the thing about Cote is like, Cote kind of failed upwards in some spots. Am I wrong? Like, am I?
Tell me how. I mean, he had the competitive fight with Alan Belcher.
Yeah, right. Like,
he
he won
he-
10 and 11 in the UFC.
That's true. I mean,
So-
if we discount the Alan Belcher fight where he was spiked on his head at the end, and if we discount the the one where he lost because of a point deduction. Yeah, 10 and 11, I suppose. Some of those are late career wins. He had a good resurgence at 170. And then Elias, cut because the UFC didn't find him particularly entertaining. I think there was a conversation there to be had for sure.
Yeah.
Between Elias or...
It's so weird too. Like, every once in a while you're gonna get these UFC guys like what's it called? John Fitch, who had pretty good records in UFC. Like, I look at Elias's record, it's pretty solid.
good.
Yeah, it's just he wasn't the greatest fighter, and every time you needed him to really get one, he kind of laid an egg. So
Has he been cut? Or he's still
Yeah, he
Yeah, he's
cut
cut.
a while ago.
actually, he fought on the prospect card against some Brazilian, I believe, or
Oh, did he? How did he do?
murdered him. But
Of course. Yeah, Elias has a very specific path to victory, and he has a very awkward style, and he wins based on that. I trained with him years ago, and
Who won?
who won?
Okay, I'm joking.
He's a 185er. I will say no more.
So you won.
What are you talking about? He's a 185.
How do we feel about?
I did not beat Elias Theodorou.
For full disclosure,
He's a
Stefano just winked at me very
No.
subtly.
He's a 185er. I never beat Elias Theodorou. Elias would kick my ass. Elias would drag me kicking and screaming around the octagon.
Really? I just say words now. Okay.
Dude, no, report. Okay, listen. How do we feel about putting Dennis Kang in that list?
Dennis Kang can be top 10. Dennis Kang had some success in Pride. He really did. Didn't have the most successful UFC run, but yeah. I like me some Dennis Kang, a good all-rounder.
Yeah. No, I'm
Are we
taking a
missing
look
any
at
Canadians that fought in Pride?
Sorry?
Are we missing any Canadians that fought in Pride?
Well, we already mentioned Carlos Newton. Oh, how about the Woodbridge boy? Kind of, sort of Woodbridge boy, Mark Bocek.
Yeah, Bocek. Bocek is somebody that had competitive fights with Benson Henderson and Frankie Edgar. And rumor has it from that he was the best technical wrestler in Canada at the time when George St. Pierre was dominating the welterweight division. Right, George St. Pierre more of an athlete, and having trained with him, I can attest to the fact that his grappling is just disgustingly good. He's taught the one time I trained with him, or 2 times I've trained with him. He taught me things that changed my game forever. Just so technical, the details that this man has as far as his wrestling goes. Top 10 for sure. On one end of the top 10, probably 6 on down.
Yeah.
But you got to rank him.
Yeah, I just, hey, man, he deserves his flowers.
Yeah, if we're mentioning Canadian greats, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so far we got St. Pierre, Newton, Cote.
I think we did Hominick.
Hominick before Cote.
Mm-hmm.
Hominick before Cote. So where's Rory? Is he 4?
Where's Rory?
Rory, I would put third.
Rory's
I would put third after Newton, and then maybe Hominick Cote.
That's not a bad legacy to leave, man. Third best fighter of your nationality.
Sure, yeah. And
how about the boy Mitch Gagnon?
You know, Mitch fought come to think about it, a very competitive fight against Henan Barao. Back when Henan Barao was a puzzle for a lot of people, come to think about it. Lost, I could have been giving him a favorable scorecard at the time, and I watched it so long ago I haven't seen it since, but he was giving Barao some problems with his boxing until Barao took him down in the 4th or 5th, I believe. I had him up, but yeah, gave a good account of himself.
I got one final
4-4
question.
in the UFC, unfortunately, but he had that one fight of his life against Henan.
I got one final question.
I'm about to
Who
step up the
is
washroom.
the young Canadian who you think is going to become a UFC Hall of
Michael
Famer?
Asiffo, easily.
Other than Michael Asiffo and Stefano
already beat up
Hosko,
Lennox
Dog of
Lewis.
War. That's
Listen,
true.
let's not tell
so
rumors.
true.
Let's not tell rumors. Okay? The only thing I will reveal is that we may have had a physical altercation. That's it.
Hilarious. That's
the
so
only thing
funny. I need to know how that goes.
If we get to 1,000 subscribers, we already have something for 1,000 subscribers. If we get to 10,000 subscribers, we'll tell you the story.
Yes. No, in fact, if we get to 20,000 subscribers, we promise that Mike is going to spar Lennox Lewis live here on the Lat Kick
Okay,
podcast.
that's not happening.
We've done it. That says I'm going to destroy your washroom. Okay, so I guess we're transitioning to boxing news.
Transition.
Wow. What a week of boxing we get to talk about today.
Like a sneeze. Okay, sorry.
All right, yo, Jeremy, talk to us. You're
There's really only one piece of news that
no.
we need
There was
to
a
talk
fight.
about.
There was a fight the other day, but whatever. Talk to.
You guys already took up all the time. I mean,
Yeah, for real.
Podcast. So ultimately, people need to realize. That's my only thought. Ultimately, people need to realize that Ugas versus Pacquiao is a good fight. And the reason why people...
Dude,
Jeremy's
even-
one of those dudes.
You
Jeremy's
didn't
one
even
of
give me a
those dudes.
preamble or anything. You're just getting good.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't give preambles.
Let's talk about it. Let's just get it out of the way. Okay.
I don't give disclaimers. I just say what I think and I move from there.
Ooh, cold-blooded.
And the reason why people are not into it is because obviously
it was Errol Spence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Errol Spence is no longer fighting Manny Pacquiao because he has an eye injury.
Yeah, I think it's like torn. Is it torn or scratched retina?
Torn retina.
Retina.
And look,
Scratching your retina is bad enough, let alone
And
tearing.
I'm gonna say this: the problem with this is why is this happening now? And it's perfectly legitimate to cancel this fight because of a torn retina, but.
Yeah, this guy's watching movies, playing video games in the bathroom. Stefano, you know we're recording a podcast, right? You guys on Instagram. You can watch your porn later, man.
yeah, I was about to say, yeah, this guy's about to support in there, like.
Right now, I feel my watch. Anyways, it's just cancellation after cancellation, and that's what makes it so disheartening. And then you get fights like Ugas versus Pacquiao, which would have happened sooner, which actually could have even happened sooner, but because of inactivity. I mean, but Pacquiao only wants to fight like the best, so that's understandable. But the point is that the reason why this is hurting this summer boxing is because the biggest face in boxing, Jake Paul, put boxing in the eyes of fans, and this summer was set to bring on so many more boxing fans.
After the Olympics? Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And you just see cancellation after cancellation. It's like, this is why you're ruining this great
But to be
sport.
fair, though, to play devil's advocate, Jeremy, I mean, a torn retina is pretty...
That's
pretty
what
damn-
sounds understandable.
Yeah, it's pretty
For
damn
point
serious.
of reference, this is what got Michael Bisping one eyeball.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Like, it's
Exactly.
pretty damn serious.
Right,
it makes
right.
sense why he's pulling out of this fight, but I get what you mean, like,
Why
in
is it
terms of...
happening now? That's the thing. Like,
Because he tore it now.
Yeah, he tore it now.
it's just you're right. That's right.
Like, yeah, it's not as if, like, he
Okay.
signed the thing with the torn... Oh, I mean, we don't know. He
We
might
don't know.
have.
Yeah, there could be a lot of factors.
But that's the thing. Like, this was supposed to be the last big fight of the summer because
Yeah.
you're supposed to have Devin Haney versus Garcia. That was supposed to happen. You're supposed to have Fury versus Wilder. That was supposed to happen, which was originally supposed to be.
Forgotten.
Which was
What
originally
was these
Oh my
fights?
god! We were supposed to. Oh my god! We were
Which
supposed
was
to have
originally
Bosos versus fucking Lopez too.
Yeah, that's being postponed.
Oh,
That's not really a
wow.
big fight. I mean, it's pretty big, but it's not like the other two that I mentioned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure.
But-
No.
and Wilder Fury, which got canceled, was
Yeah.
supposed to be Joshua Fury.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right.
But
It's still-
the point being that it diminishes how good Ugas versus Pacquiao is. It diminishes how good the fights this weekend were.
Who fought this weekend?
Oh, Casemiro and
Virgil Ortiz. Well, Casemiro fought Guillermo Rigondeaux, and Guillermo Rigondeaux was fighting very scared. But he was pop shot him. The only thing is that an older 2019, 2018 Rigondeaux would have destroyed Casemiro. Casemiro was just all athleticism and explosion. So that fight went in the way of John Real Casemiro just because Rigondeaux was fighting too defensive. And then you have the other fight on the zone, which was Virgil Ortiz against Kyle Velasquez.
Yeah.
And Kyle Velasquez also was good in his day, but this was a good test for Virgil Ortiz. So just two really good fights, and then you had my boy Joshua Guazzi, Gamma Boy.
Oh, that
Yeah,
whole
boy.
guy who he just knocks out everybody, right? That one.
Yeah. I think this one went to a decision. I can't remember who he fought. Balatkins. Anyways, he did very well. All really good talents. He was like a silver medalist in like around 175.
Okay,
So
I'll check him out.
Yeah. So Gamma Boy.
I like the Ghanaians during the Olympics.
And it's like
you should
that-
be ashamed of yourself.
What are you talking about? We have bronze. How dare you? We got bronze.
Oh, bronze.
You keep.
There was not even one Nigerian. Come on, Nigeria. Come on.
Yeah. But like,
It's okay. The Nigerians have 2 UFC
all I'm saying is
champions.
that it starts with shabs like Jake Paul Then Jake Paul gets the attention. Then a few of those people want to watch the big fights, and then the big fights bring you to the fights like Virgil Ortiz,
You're right.
where you see guys who want to. So it's like
We all start somewhere.
Exactly. So it's like this is what's diminishing, and that's why I want to be one of these guys who's like, these are good fights that you should actually tune into because of the corruption and just the whole amalgamation of like just bad shit that's going on. Where was my straight thought going? It kind of like it diminishes the other fights. You know what I'm saying?
I hear
you know what I'm saying? Like
You just said a buzzword that kind of leads me to another question. What do you guys make of the judge being suspended? Do you think it was because of the bad card or because of the racist tweets? Allegedly racist.
Call him a
Look, last week we had who's that card? 117. What was it for again? Oh, it happened last week. Look, we had a terrible.
It was ugly. It was bad.
Who was it? Oh,
Was it?
That was a big fight.
Oh man, it was like a unification.
Was it the Charlo fight?
Charlo, yes.
There
it was Charlo versus Castano.
Yeah,
Castano, like legit.
Michael just did the perfect African guy point. Yeah, that's it.
That's the thing. You come from a really close card that no matter how you scored it, it shouldn't have been 117.
It wasn't a robbery, but like
no, that's my thing. Where do you draw the line? Should you start
Exactly.
like signing people because they didn't see it? Like maybe you saw it as like a clear victory for one person, and in reality it was a little bit of a closer fight. Like should you start?
I think for judging, when you see a history of incompetency, you need to get people out of there. Like one screw up isn't necessarily indicative. You know, everyone's entitled to a bad night, even if it ruins someone else's career, I suppose. But we got to start holding these judges accountable. I don't think it's the system. I think it's the bad apples.
Yeah. And you know what? To their credit, what boxing organization was it? They suspended them. They were like, "Yo, you're gone."
Yeah.
Oh, quick, just to clarify, I mean not the system, as in I mean like the system of judging, not the system of finding people to adjudicate.
Wait, what's wrong with the system of judging?
Nothing. I'm saying when I clarify, I'm saying when I mean the system, I don't mean the system of judging fights like the 10-point mile system. I mean the system that the problem is the system that brings these incompetent people to adjudicate fights.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So, either way, you got Ugas versus Spence that will happen at the end of this.
Ugas versus Pacquiao.
I'm sorry. Look at me. Ugas versus
You're frazzled.
Pacquiao at the end of this month, and Ugas is
he's a good fighter.
Great fighter, a good fighter, very good fighter. But I would give it to Pacquiao to just his experience, the warrior that he is. I expect him to beat Ugas, whether it goes to the cards or I don't think he'll knock out Ugas. Ugas, I think, will go all 12. I think he'll get him on the cards just for being so dominant. I feel he'll be dominant and aggressive and just dictate the pace of the fight. And Spence will return sometime in December or January to fight. So.
Well,
Wait. Do we really think Spence is coming back in January with his torn retina?
No, but I'm saying like he'll be ready to choose an opponent. He'll start getting the pressure on him to choose an opponent.
Well,
Just a torn retina?
I was about to say, but torn retina though, like torn retina, like you should.
There are guys who like that's the end of your career. You know what I mean? Like it depends on
Torn
how bad
retina's
it is.
no joke.
Yeah.
Hey,
Requires surgical intervention.
Hey, I'm no doctor.
And then you
I'm
want to
no
go box
doctor.
afterwards? Like
Right.
the doctor's gonna be like, buddy, like I don't know about this boxing stuff. If you get hit in the eye again, like that could be a wrap.
Yeah, no.
Like Mickey once said to Rocky, "No, Rocky, you don't see nothing."
Well, my thing is, I mean, okay, two-parter. Like, I didn't even understand. I didn't even realize that perspective. Jeremy opened my eyes. We were supposed to get so many fights.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be the summer of boxing, and these guys fumbled the bag
Yeah.
in a hilarious and vicious manner.
First of all, you had like Joshua and Fury. Not saying like they don't know the rules, but like they didn't even realize like they both are under like. I mean, but then again, maybe you're speaking to the corruption of all these divisions where two guys want to fight, but they can't because they have to do their mandatories first.
Dude, and this is the thing.
But then again,
Ooh,
thinking
let me
back
talk about
on
the
it,
WBC.
to be fair, Wilder and Fury did sign a contract which gave both of them a rematch clause.
And I was okay with that fight too. I was okay with that.
I was okay with it. Everybody
No, I
was like,
wasn't.
"What?" Everybody was like, "Why would you want to do this? You got beat the first." No,
From a moral perspective, from a pure boxing perspective, I get where the whole controversy was, but from a deal's a deal perspective, the right thing to do was give him the rematch.
Sure.
He signed it. Yeah.
From a
And
deal
you're gonna make more money anyway. I don't know.
No, but like he's right though. Like Jeremy is right. This was supposed to be the summer of boxing.
Yeah.
And there were so many big fights lined up, and we didn't get nearly the summer we were supposed to get. Instead, we got Jake Paul versus Ben Askren, and I can get why, as a boxing fan, you feel cheated.
You could say that the summer of boxing was brutalized, like Mike brutalized Lennox Lewis at that sporting event. Dragged him around by his dreadlocks, gave him the old 1-4.
I love how this story is getting more and more just like descriptive.
He's like,
Insane.
you know what, Lennox Lewis, I'm gonna teach you some manners. He's like, no, Michael, please, I'm sorry, don't.
Michael,
No,
let
no,
go of my
no.
heel, let go of my ankle.
Not in public, Mike, please.
Notice how when you speak about Lennox Lewis and you do his impression, it's a British accent and he's not Canadian.
A genuine
He's
British
Canadian.
accent?
He's Canadian. He won. When you win an Olympic gold for Canada, then
It's a good point.
Then you can criticize.
No, it's a good point. I'm just saying, what do you do when you got big? What do you do?
He pretended he was British.
Yeah, okay, so
But
what we're
so
trying
would
to-
you, man. I mean, like,
We're all gonna pretend we're British when we get big for some reason.
you guys know how much the Brits get behind like their fighters. Like they don't play around with that stuff.
150%.
Like they're fighters who like fight in Britain for their entire lives.
150%. But you know what some people do. Okay, look at Drake with music. Look at no, I'm serious. Like look at other people who are Canadian. They stay and they big up the scene, and the scene gets bigger as a
And
result.
the
George
scene
St. Pierre.
forgets about them. Oh, sorry.
George St. Pierre,
Yeah, George St.
as a
Pierre
matter of
fucking made.
principle,
Yeah.
refused to use tax havens and paid his fair share to the Canadian
Oh,
government.
that was.
And then as a result, look at the Canadian MMA scene. It is as big as it. You go see any Canadian amateur. I will argue 7 times out of 10, they spark the American amateurs.
Yep.
And it's contributions of George St. Pierre, Hansa Stout, Mark Hominick, list goes on and on, who stayed. They stayed, despite the fact that still, to this day,
Yo.
amateur MMA is illegal.
Michael's beef
Yeah,
with
who knows?
Jordan.
Lennox
Yo,
Lewis
who
could've
knew?
inspired.
Yo, man, who knew Michael's beef with Lennox Lewis was so
Honestly,
deep? Let me like.
Mike, you know what?
could have inspired a whole generation of
No, but Canadian
That's
boxers,
boxers, but instead he chose to go to the
To
money.
go to-
and-
Well,
Do you know? Do you know why I
Yeah.
blame though? Do you know why I blame for Lennox Lewis not being considering himself Canadian? It's Mike. Because as Mike grabbed him by his dreads and was slapping around, he's like, "No, Michael, please. You've already taken my pride. Please don't take my passport too."
Yeah, don't take
And Mike
away my
reaches into
citizenship.
his back pocket, pulls out his birth certificate, his
is-
passport. He's like,
rips it.
"You're no longer Canadian, Lennox,"
Alright.
and just
This
rip
is
that
getting
bad boy.
insane. This story is
Please,
getting
Michael, I don't
If
want
we
that
ever
unity anymore.
get to like a subscribe count, I will explain the story. It's really not that big of a deal, but like, yeah, it colored my opinion on Lex Lewis. I'm not gonna lie, okay?
Hey, didn't you have a little tussle with Mitch Gagnon as well?
What is it with Mike and just fighting legends, like Canadian legends?
He's out there taking names.
Yeah.
Hey, I looked on Tapology. Last I checked, Lennox Lewis and Mitch Gagnon are to your record. What's up?
Jeez.
Man, you're making me out to seem like
No, but,
way more of a dick than I
I
really
would
No,
say though,
Michael,
like
please.
to counter that, I do feel like there is actually a pretty decent boxing scene in Canada. Like there are a few good Canadian boxers.
Do you know what I think Canada's best combat sport is?
Muay
Kickboxing.
Thai. Oh.
Muay Thai and kickboxing, yeah. That's where we've produced the
Bazooka Joe.
Bazooka Joe.
What's that?
Gabriel Varga.
What's that weird dude who does Lethway?
Is he
Oh,
Canadian?
Lemieux, yeah, Lemieux. He's
David
yeah.
Lemieux, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you go based on Bazooka Joe and Simon Marcus. What's the name?
10-time world champion.
Yeah. Simon
Well,
Marcus.
Is there a dude? Is that the guy?
There's a
who beat,
145.
Adesanya, or am I tripping?
Matt Embry.
Okay.
No, Adesanya, that was Perez. Simon Marcus, I might have fought Adesanya, I'm not sure. But like that alone, I just named 5 or 6 names that are kickboxing
Legends.
royalty.
Yeah,
Royalty.
legends.
Like, And sadly, for whatever reason,
But
It's not as big.
But here's why.
you think it would be with all the people who are like, just stand up.
You would think
Grappling's homosexual.
He is.
But no,
By the
like-
way, I have full respect for homosexual
I do
people and their
feel like
life choices.
combat-
I don't want to see it in a combat sport, however.
But combat sports,
You
I
know?
feel like before was definitely more counterculture. Now, I think like if you go to a room of 10 people, at least 2 to 3 of them have at least heard of the UFC and heard of MMA.
Yeah,
But, like,
it's a lot more
I will
incorporated into
say-
the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
I will say though,
Yeah,
the
kickboxing
reason
should be
why,
huge.
the
But it's
reason why
niche.
kickboxing,
Yeah, let alone kickboxing and Muay Thai, which is even more niche than MMA, I think.
But then again, Glory doesn't really do a good job in.
yeah, but
Well,
what are these
Sure,
supposed to
here's
do?
the thing.
masses.
Here's where kickboxing was big. Kickboxing has never been big in North America. It's been boxing, it's been wrestling, and MMA's made inroads. Kickboxing is big in Europe. It's massive in Europe. It's huge. The French, the Dutch, the Italians.
It's big in terms of like participation,
Revenue
but in
as
terms of
well.
like, yeah,
Yeah, in terms of gates and viewership.
It
And in Japan, oh,
independent.
they kill in Japan.
so China, kickboxing is massive. Thailand obviously doesn't need to be stated that Muay Thai is huge there.
Yeah,
England has a big Muay Thai scene, so I mean,
it does.
it just
But I-
never really crossed over into North America.
But Canada, they're not killers in the terms of the gate, but they I think
We got
we're
the stars.
underrating how we do okay, and it comes down to this: Muay Thai and kickboxing, when you go to the government regulations, is treated a lot more fairly and
That's
a lot
true.
more with a brush than MMA.
That's true.
It just comes down to that, and it's unfortunate to say it because MMA does seem like the bigger sport in Ontario. In fact, I
In
think
the
Toronto's
world.
one of the biggest markets for mixed martial arts.
Remember when they used to call it the Mecca of MMA?
No, Ontario is the biggest market for mixed martial arts.
So-
just on population alone.
Yeah, so it's funny that our government does not, and I think this is why you see a lot of counterculture people in MMA in Ontario
Yeah.
to this day, because for us loving this sport, and
It's kind of weird. It's kind of
Ontario
weird.
has not rewarded our love with some regulation to get this legalized in at least the amateur scene.
Well, as Ontario, there needs to be red tape around everything, boy. We got to start on everything in red tape. You're not allowed to do anything fun. Bars have to close at 12 o'clock. No alcohol or disorderly conduct will be permitted.
Hilarious. Have we ended our boxing segment?
Yeah.
Oh man, dude, we got a lot of asked questions, but we went like a minute 30, so sorry, an hour 30.
Okay,
so.
can we
You got to
just,
do
like,
2 questions for today?
Yeah, let's just like rattle them off.
No, we just spill the content.
Okay, fine.
A
Sure.
couple questions.
All right, fair enough. Okay, I'm going to the like Cake Instagram.
I have one really quickly. This one comes from me, actually, Mike. When you took Lennox Lewis's pride, dignity, and undefeated MMA record, did you have to rip up his passport afterwards?
Yeah, what chokehold did you use? Like,
Yeah.
what grip?
We
Like-
are not talking.
Okay.
When he begged you for mercy, why didn't you oblige him?
Yeah.
No, Mike.
First
Me Canadian
question.
identity's all I have. All right, go on.
I love how you just again British accent. Just say it.
Yeah, you took his identity.
Yeah, he took his Canadian accent. He started off Canadian. During the stroke, he's like, "Oh, this stroke's pretty hard." I don't know how to do an accent at all. Sorry.
You lived in fucking Britain.
I know. I have
were
no accent.
living this.
You're the
I
most
know.
British one out of all of us.
I know, and I still can't do a British
You
accent.
should be talking like a
Talking
Highlander.
real posh. No, that was terrible.
What was that?
Oh,
He literally just went falsetto.
I don't do
That was
accents,
just a
man.
falsetto
I can't
voice.
do accents at all.
David British accent. I'm so posh.
Yes.
All right, Mike. I'm
right,
gonna try and
first
erase
question.
that from my memory. Go on.
All right. First question comes from, I guess, I can't say this. All right. Is Islam Makhachev the next Habib?
No, because he doesn't have the same dominating game when it comes. I mean, his grappling is very good. I mean, we talked about this last fight. Like his grappling is very good, but it's not like what's the word? Kind of like the magic bullet that Khabib's grappling was, and
It's not the golden gun of 007.
Yeah. And I personally don't see that kind of creativity in the striking realm that people always talk about. So it's okay.
I think he is more developed in striking than Khabib. I would ask, what do you mean by that? Do you mean is he the next big thing out of Dagestan? Probably
Yeah.
he's the next biggest product out of Dagestan, other than maybe Magomed Ankalaev. We'll see. Do you mean, though, that he is stylistically fights like Khabib? Not necessarily. Or do you mean that he's going to achieve the same kind of heights as Khabib? And I'd say we'll have to see. It's a stacked division, and it's very scary. But I am excited for him. I'll say that.
Yeah.
He's not Khabib 2.0 stylistically, but...
Yeah, there are differences, right? There are differences for sure, but I guess in terms of like, hey, could he carry the torch?
For Dagestan?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, why not? I don't see why not. I'm just thinking in direct comparison. I don't think he's the same dominating force that Khabib was, but
Yeah.
I don't think
He's
there's
trickier.
ever been a dominating force like Khabib. So that's not really like a diss, you know what I mean?
Khabib has a lot of very unique things to make
Exactly.
him Khabib. His durability, his reckless pressure, right? His just physical strength that he makes these grappling situations work for him.
and makes seasoned grapplers look like toddlers.
Exactly. Now, Makhachev, there is a lot of craft there, and he's
He's a good wrestler. He's a good wrestler. There's no doubt about that.
He's a decent counter puncher, right? There's things there that can make him entertaining, but
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from our boy Satrio, killing in the movie scene. Calf kicks, overrated, misused, or misunderstood?
the third,
I would say yeah.
very misunderstood. Because overrated, I mean, in order for them to be overrated, they would have to not be producing the results that they are. But they are. Like, clearly, a couple of good calf kicks will send, force a fighter to completely change their game plan. We've seen some stoppages by them.
I mean, Michael Chandler lost his belt to a scrub. Well, I guess by his standards, not as good of a fighter.
This guy. We're
I
not
almost
with
said it. I
basketball,
almost
man.
said
We're not
it.
with, this
I
is
almost
basketball,
went there.
Stephen A.
No,
Jeez.
I almost went
Yeah.
there. I almost went there. But like he lost it to a guy who should not have beaten him in any universe just because of a calf kick.
So now the next point, so it was overrated, then overused. I think misused. I would say something's misused when it's not used to proper effect. And I think they've been used fairly effectively. I remember I was watching the fights with me, my girlfriend, and a friend of ours who doesn't watch MMA, and she was like, "So what, are they just going to kick each other in the leg for 3 rounds?"
Was she British?
Yeah, she was British.
Why is your British
I
accent
know
that
her. I know her.
Okay.
So, and to people's perception to the untrained eye, it might appear that way, especially because kicking the calf may appear to people to be a cheese technique.
Yeah. Or people would probably think, if they've never felt one, like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Now, misunderstood. I will say that they're misunderstood in that Joe Rogan, every broadcast, like, calf kick is revolutionary. Like, okay, we get it. But it's something that now people are producing answers for. Jose Aldo, with
Checked
his
one in his latest
checks
fight.
every one of them with a very light front leg style, traditional Muay Thai style. You're going to see people using distance management. It's going to be something that has to address and will adapt to the game. And we won't be seeing people get away with as many free calf kicks in the future.
I gotta say,
But they're here to stay, and they need to be treated more seriously than you would a leg kick on the thigh. But misunderstood in that, like, oh my God, there's no solution to them.
there's definitely
There's
solutions.
definitely solutions.
I gotta say, I had the displeasure of sparring with Michael yesterday and throwing a calf kick, and it's not the body kick that he checked, where he literally, I think he like checked it and then side kicked me at the same time, which really, really hurt. But it was the calf kick. I think it might have been in like one of our earlier rounds. Oh boy, like I can literally still not walk just from the check. Like he didn't kick me, like I kicked him and he checked it so perfectly that like today, like I can still like not walk properly. So
It's a delicate area.
It's a delicate area, and it's not like a 100% technique. You know what I mean? Like if a dude who knows how to like check kicks, like actually checks your kicks, like you're gonna be in.
Or if you're staying out at a range and faking your entries, getting guys to commit to a kick and then entering in after they've committed to it, right? Like, that's where the calf kick's being used a lot now as a counter to a jab, right? Staying out at long range, extending your opponent and kicking them in the calf. So you have to bait out the calf kick and then enter in.
Yeah.
And it has to be treated clearly with the same kind of seriousness that you would take a shot to the face.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think it just comes down to this. Are you setting your stuff up? Like, you know what I'm saying? Are you setting your stuff up?
Are you talking to me, Mike? We've already talked about this. Man.
No,
I'm joking. Good joke.
you know, we discussed this. No, but yeah, no, it just comes down to, are you setting your stuff up? Because, you know, if you see, like, look at Conor McGregor, look at Weidman. Both of them were thrown naked. Right? They were thrown naked. And if you throw naked,
You're right.
You will get checked. Like
Connor's weren't calf kicks though; those were thigh
they were
kicks.
more like kicks to like the knee here area, which, by the way, is kind of where you want to go to stop like
A kick, yeah,
you know?
for sure.
But I think it just comes down to, you gotta set the table, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like throw your punches or throw like a bunch of kicks first, but you gotta set the table, right? And I think Ernesto Hus was really good at it, like freezing guys, without necessarily throwing a punch,
timing them while they stepped forward, or hitting them in combination so that he ensured that their leg was weight was planted on that leg. Yeah, Hust was phenomenal at that.
So, you know, and that's the same principle for a thigh kick, same principle for a body kick, same principle for a head
Different range and application, but same principle that you have to do your work to ensure that you're not going to kick a solid surface.
So yeah, I think misunderstood the word, because there's too many people who are on both sides of the aisle. They think it's like this miracle thing that was created and no one will ever figure it out, and it's the greatest thing to ever have lived. And then there's people who think, you know, it's garbage. And
There's still people who don't check leg kicks.
yeah, right.
Oh wait, what?
You see these thighs? No.
What? I was like, what?
Yeah, and Jose Aldo, I think it'll be interesting. He obviously has a very unique style that not a ton of people are using. I think Masvidal is also very light on that lead leg. So we might
Luque? No.
to a different extent, but his game is very different. He's Mr. Left
No,
Hook.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll see if that becomes a different application of it. You want to do one more? Or you want to get out of here? What do you think?
I mean, you know, let's do one more. Why not? Screw it. Like,
I feel kind of fly.
technically speaking, we have to like cut like a whole bunch of the parts of this podcast because there was no sound. But
What parts?
oh, like the middle, like we were talking about Canadian fighters, but like it was so inconsequential. We were like literally bumbling ourselves. All right. Oh, this is actually pretty interesting. I'm not gonna go with the Conor McGregor one because
Who else did?
it was you know.
Because you know how mad that makes me?
Was it Danny?
It was Alan. Come on.
Train with Alan?
Huh?
Train with Alan?
No, it's yes, it's what do you call it? One of the Irish.
Oh, Irish Alan. Alan Doyle. All right.
Yeah.
Of the IRA.
But okay. Anyway, let's go to this next one. So it's Rich. Well, I'm not gonna say his last name. And he asked a very interesting question.
Wait, why aren't you going to say his last? No, go on.
So it was 2 to 3 years of serious training. Now I'm gonna rearrange it because he said, "Is Simone Biles killing everyone in the octagon?" I'm not gonna say that, but could Simone Biles be? What could she do in the octagon?
Nothing. She's 4 for 10,
Who
right?
did Alan ask this question?
No, it was not Alan. It was Rich. It was Richard. He asked this new fan of the
We've
Laker.
already kind of talked about this
Richard,
too,
man, I'm
though.
sure you're a nice guy, but like, I think your question is
Not good.
the dumbest thing I've heard all week. Love you, buddy.
But
Sorry.
they do that all the time.
No,
Like,
I digress. I digress. Let me.
No, they do that all the time with like 3 years training. You think LeBron James would be a heavyweight champion or
I mean,
something?
Okay, look,
dumb.
I'm sure he asked
Here's
in
the
good
thing.
faith.
I think he asked it in good faith.
No,
because
no,
he
no, I
went
don't think-
serious, extensive. Like I have the question here. He went serious, extensive training,
Oh.
and so I think he understands that. Like, give somebody 6 months, 2 times a week at like the local Thai boat class is not going to do it. I just think he thinks Simone Biles has a lot of physical advantages. You know, explosive, extremely flexible.
Okay, Richard.
You know,
I will say that athleticism is a component of MMA,
Yeah.
but it is not MMA. You have to have a mind for it. Now, what does that mean? You have to be
Okay,
able
with
to
getting
make.
hit.
Yeah, first of all, let's take the aspect of everything else off the table. You have to be okay with damaging people's brains and
Getting
having
hit.
the risk of your own brain damage.
You gotta have the stomach.
And
for
you
it.
got to be a special kind of crazy to do that.
Yeah.
Number two, you have to be able to. There is a certain. Not saying that Simone Biles isn't intelligent, because clearly high-level athleticism requires intelligence to a certain extent, right? Kinesthetic awareness at the very least, but there is a certain kind of problem-solving intelligence that comes along with MMA. Being able to make reads on the fly, and I'm not saying that transfers to other areas of life necessarily, but it does require something specific.
But I don't think like that's even where she would have trouble with, like in terms of like, as you said, what's the word, kinesthetic
awareness.
Wow.
Oh no, kinesthetic awareness should be great at. Gymnasts have phenomenal kinesthetic
exactly,
awareness.
like in terms of understanding what her body can do and even anticipating what another body can do. I think like the biggest part would probably be like experience, right? Like
these are sport-specific skills, right? And gymnasts are very strong.
Right.
They're very strong individuals.
Yeah.
But
Like I see. This is the thing. I want to change the question up because it's like I
wanted
think we're all in the same boat.
No, but I wanted to say this. I
but-
do think that with 2 to 3 years training, anybody, any fully abled body who does extensive training for 2 to 3 years should be able to be a competitive fighter. Whether they're going to be
no.
what?
Any able-bodied person.
I
with
think,
2 to 3
the
years of
problem
training-
is. I think the problem is
2 to 3 years, an able-bodied, a competent fighter on what level? That they'll
At the
defend
amateur
themselves.
level. At the amateur level.
No.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I'm not going to disagree with you guys. You guys will know, but I would think like 2 to 3 years and
No.
I think you know the problem.
I'm thinking of that meme of Gru from
Yeah.
Despicable Me where he's just like, no.
I think the problem is like you run into some of these super athletes who have done it, and you think like that's like an everybody thing, but like no.
Not even in the amateur circuit. Absolutely not.
Right.
You can maybe beat. It depends on how.
You can beat some scrubs. You can definitely beat some scrubs. There's
But
a lot
again,
of
like I know people that have been training for 2 to 3 years and are ass. I know people that have been training for 10 years and are ass.
like
I know
but then-
people that are training for 10 years and are good.
but not 10 years.
But then on the flip side, you get guys who've been training for 6 months. And they pick it up. Like, you've seen it. Like, they pick it up. And it's weird. So
it's weird. But, like, here's the thing. If we're talking 90% of the population, no. They're not going to do it. Even 90% of elite athletes.
It comes down to this. I think a lot of it is, do you have the stomach for it? Do you have the crazy for it?
And the
do you have
mind for it.
Determination for it. Right? The athletic stuff comes after.
The determination, I don't think like they doubt. Like I don't doubt if you're a high level athlete, I don't think you would lack.
And you have a lot of doubts when you're standing across from another killer.
Sure, but I mean, once again, if you've been in that position before, I mean, we don't know what it's like to compete at the highest level of gymnastics in terms of the nerves and the pressure and the competition.
I'm sure there's a lot of nerves and pressure,
Yeah.
but with war, there is a different kind of nerves and pressure.
And it takes a long time to even get to that stage of like the determination you need to even become a high level athlete. Is I feel like
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know what else though? It also determines how
I gotta
much
go
you.
soon, guys.
Yeah, it's just.
Alright.
No, go on.
I was just gonna say it also depends on how much you actually enjoy the sport. Like, I feel like that's part of it. Like, people kind of just get into sports because they're good at it. So and then they just kind of go along with the flow, and they reach the top. But then other people get to the top because they really enjoy the essence of the sport. They enjoy the things that it brings them. So it's like I feel like you need that too. That's also a component of being good. Like you have to really enjoy the process.
There's a great Marcelo Garcia quote, who, if you don't know, is one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world of the previous generation. And he said, I may not be the strongest, I may not be the most athletic, I may not be the fastest, but I know I love it more than anybody else.
Right.
And so that is a big part of it, right? Being pulled to just...
So I was saying that to say that if Simone Biles really gravitates towards the sport, who's is to say that she doesn't have a chance to in 2 to 3 years.
You know, I can really see a world where she gets really good on the ground.
But these are hypothetical, right?
You know,
You gotta have the mind, I'm not ruling it out, but like these are unknowable.
No, I'm just saying, like, she has it. Like, look,
She's also.
She
I
can
think
get
he's
the
asking that question to say, can her athletic gifts
translate in there, and I say
with
yeah.
2 to 3 years?
Does gymnastics give you incredible athleticism that can transfer over to other sports? Without a doubt. That's been known for years. Gymnastics, kinesthetic awareness, like I said, isometric strength, good reaction speed, just explosive athleticism. Like these are all things that you gain with gymnastics.
Okay, so if her athleticism isn't what can help her become elite in 2 to 3 years, what is something that can help her?
Well, athleticism
elite in 2 to 3
athleticism can help you become elite in 2 to 3 years.
It's not all you need.
But it's not the only thing. You need the right combination of factors, right?
Yeah, like,
And I
and this
feel
is
like-
where you get the Aaron Donald could be good in MMA conversation. Like, this is where people say these things.
Yeah, who was that?
Who's Aaron Donald?
Aaron Donald, probably the greatest defensive tackle to ever play football.
Oops.
You know? And currently still playing. But, like, the point I'm trying to make is this is where you get into the conversation, and I have to explain to people that, like, you don't know what someone's mind will be like when they face somebody, because you think you know.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of football players, like, you know, I've met a lot of football players who think they're fighters, and I tell them I got the gloves in the back. Let's go. Right? I tell them, because they all think, and then all of a sudden...
Funny story. That's how the Lennox Lewis-Michael Asiffo fight began. Oh, Lennox, you think you're a fighter? I got the gloves in the back.
I gotta go in the back.
I think the reason why is because how a lot of people can't handle fighting, a lot of people can't handle football.
No, it's true.
It's like
That's
any
why you
sport,
get,
though.
That's why you get a confidence when you play football, is because a lot of people take that hit and a lot of people walk away from it.
Yeah. There was like, this is obvious. Like I obviously never played football on even close to the level that you played, right? I just played a little bit of high school football and I was like a special teams guy. But there was this running back that used to play for this other school, and he had like phenomenal athletic gifts. They picked him up because he was a star from the track team, and he was just this like, you know, bullet. But it was known like, hey, this guy does not like to get hit. You know, he's here not because he wants to, but because they convinced him into it, because he's a stud athlete. If you get on him and you start getting in his head and hitting him and making it ugly, he's not going to want to continue playing in this game.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's part of this game. Violence is part of the game. So it's like that. So you have to take the entire sport into account, I guess. So maybe in a roundabout way, I'm saying I agree with you.
Yeah. All right.
Here's an analogous question. This one's really quick before we get out of here, because we were talking about crossover from other sports.
Yeah,
So
that's
do
why
you
we
think-
know we're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Do you think? Yeah. Do you think with maybe like 2-3 months of training, the right coach, dedication, do you think Lennox Lewis could last more than 5 minutes in an MMA fight with you?
I'm not sure, man.
Or do you still choke him out with his own dreadlocks?
Now the rumor's gonna go around that I kick Lennox.
I love you now, Lennox. Like, hey,
We love you.
like,
Look,
yeah,
it's Mike
Michael
who's
that
out
has to
here.
be- exactly.
I don't. You know what's the crazy thing in all this is, like, if we ever tell this story, if we're blessed enough to have enough subscribers to tell this story, I still to this day don't hate him, and I appreciate what he did for the sport in Canada.
So then why'd you rip up his passport?
Yeah, exactly. Why did you
If that's
put
the
him in a
case,
sleeper hold?
if that's the case, why did you do all those horrible
Why did
things?
you put him in a figure 4 leg lock? Like, what's...
No, Michael, please. I want to be Canadian. I don't want to be British.
Again, British accent.
Hilarious.
All right. Let's Stefano, in the last time.
Yeah, for the
Where
last
you go,
time, threaten the children.
Threaten the children.
In fact, you know what? Because it's the last time, you can threaten anybody, not just the children.
I got a tear in my eye.
People,
I got a little tear in my eye here.
Old
You know I'm
people.
going to be continuing coming on the podcast, right?
Yeah, 100%, but like you're not gonna be in person.
It's not going to be the same.
Yeah, come on.
Well, like 50 Cent said, ninja things change. They don't stay the same. Now watch me come up. I hustle even harder. I put that work in to win. No problem. And guys, smash that subscribe button like Mike smashed Lennox Lewis. We appreciate it when you do. Tune into the podcast. Keep
Keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. If you want updates, stay tuned to our Instagram channel. We release podcasts where podcasts are found.
Start spreading the news.
I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. Sorry for covering up Jeremy's beautiful baritone.
Yeah,
voice.
really.
Jeremy.
Let the singer sing.
Sorry.
Jeremy,
I
I was trying to
felt
play
the
you
music.
up. I was trying to play you up.
I felt the music. I felt the music.
Jeremy,
Thank you, Jeremy.
Keep letting them know as he threatens each other. Go on.
And thank you for tuning in. Listen, if you don't subscribe to the podcast, if you don't subscribe and follow and like and share us to your friends and family, we will get Lennox Lewis to have 2 to 3 months of MMA training, cross over to the sport and beat your children's asses. He may have been shocked and removed of his manhood by Mike, but that doesn't mean we still don't love him and think he's a combat sports legend, and he will do the bidding of the Lightning Podcast.
And don't forget, those hands still work.
Those hands still work. To play us out, what does that mean?
Well, fuck it, we'll do it live. I actually have the pen. I can throw it this time. It is crazy mixed up world where I did not, and I repeat, I did not meet up Lennox Lewis.
There you go, do an entanglement with Lennox Lewis.
Yeah, physical altercation.
Just remember, you got life, you got family, and for the last time in person with you guys, this podcast. There, everybody.
Wait, what do you mean the last time we talked? I'm coming next week, man.
We got some good Ghanaian music in the background, too.
Is there a fight coming up? Not happening this weekend?